Apocalyptic universe. Apocalyptic universe. Apocalyptic universe.
At SSOT, we understand that classic formats might feel a bit repetitive, lacking the dynamic environment we all crave. That's why we've taken a bold step forward, revolutionizing our format to guarantee an enhanced, competitive, and more engaging viewing experience. Introducing the variable size format, where the number of players shifts with every map. In this system, the number of the map identifier corresponds to the number of players playing. Nomad 1 will be a 1v1, Hidden 2 a 2v2, etc. For the tiebreaker, expect nothing less than an epic 4v4 showdown. Also, say goodbye to the conventional map pool slots. NM1 won't be your typical aims map. NM2 won't always test your streams or flow, ensuring that each map brings a unique challenge.
And that's not all. Teams now have 60 seconds to finalize their map picks and 30 seconds for their roster for each turn. To compensate, each team can call up to 4 tactical timeouts, each lasting 30 seconds during a single game. Join us in this new chapter of SSOT, where unpredictability, strategy, and skill come together to redefine the future of OSU tournaments. Custom maps, new rule sets, new format, and more. Welcome to SSOT, beyond every beat.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SSOT. It's the first big stream of the tournament, and we are here with the qualifier results and the round of 16 Mappool showcase. Been a tough weekend for all of you playing a relatively difficult qualifiers pool. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all are ready to see where you placed and see if you are playing in the round of 16, the maps and pools that you're going to be playing for the coming weeks. I'm Dio. I am one of the map poolers for this tournament, joined by Miles, also one of the map poolers and also commentator for the tournament. Hey, Miles.
Hey, Dio. How are you? Cool to have the two dual map pooler commentators here doing the qualifiers showcase and the map pool showcase. So not going to have to do any commentator changeover. Pretty convenient on our side, but yeah, definitely really excited to get into this. It's been fun watching all of the players on their Twitch streams attempt this qualifiers pool, but it's time to get into things here.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start by talking about the qualifier rules and format that we had during the qualifiers. Anyone who played the qualifiers will know that you played through 13 maps through the qualifiers pool, and you played all through the pool once. You had throughout the weekend to do so, and all of your scores will be tallied up and compared against every other team in the tournament, not just the teams that were in your lobby, every other team in the tournament, in order to determine the best team overall throughout the weekend. And the top 16 teams out of qualifiers will be making it into the double elimination bracket stage of the tournament.
Yeah, fairly exclusive. Only top 16 for this tournament means you really had to pop off on this qualifiers pool in order to qualify. And that's led to, I think, a pretty stressful experience for qualifying. But, you know, in a premier OSU tournament, you have to expect that.
Yeah. Qualifiers pool was relatively difficult. We set out for a pool that was around 7.5 stars-ish for the mechanics picks. It was 4 Nomad with aim, streams, tech, and reading. 3 hidden with some finger control, some reading, and some alt. 3 hard rock with some aim, some precision, aim control, finger control, and some tech. And 3 DT with some DT aim, DT finger control, and streams, and DT speed streams for the third double time.
And as you saw on that video before this, the qualifiers pool, I think, was the first example of our map pooling being pretty unconventional starting in the qualifiers. I think that Nomad 4 alter, I think, might be a little jarring for some players who don't know the direction we're going in, or just how map pools are in general. Nomad 4 being high CS, alt, old style, like very, very much a skill set you don't typically see in tournaments.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun going through the rest of the pools in the tournament, starting with round of 16. But before that, we are going to show the qualifier results. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up through the qualifier results. And that is going to have us starting with seed 35, Scuffed Aim.
Team Scuffed Aim, we find that at the bottom end of our qualifier results, we have a lot of teams with a lot of low-ranked players. I think Scuffed Aim, an example of that. I think a lot of 6 digits on this team. So in the case of them, a qualifiers pool that's well over 7 stars, you don't really expect them to be able to play it very well. But always, thank you for playing, and we hope you come back when, honestly, get a little bit better.
Yeah. And that'll do it for our bottom seed in qualifiers. We're going to move on to the next 2 bottom seed in qualifiers, seed 34, and that is going to be worst DT players. This team, again, with a lot of lower ranked players on the squad, a lot of 5-digit players on this team. In fact, a full team of 5 digits. So not a team that's expected to qualify, but getting some okay scores throughout the qualifiers nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. And now on to seed number 33. We have Team Abadisi. Mm-hmm. We have another team of mostly 5-digit players. We have a couple 4-digit players on this team in Yukina Minato and 100 Gex. But once again, it's the bottom end of qualifiers. There aren't too many notable scores on this team, but ultimately it was nice to see them try out, and thank you for playing.
Yeah, no notable team scores to talk about for this team, as all of their full team scores were around their total seed. When we start getting to some of the higher seeded teams, we'll start mentioning the placements on a lot of maps for these teams overall, and their total team scores on those maps. But for now, we're going to move relatively quickly through the bottom of the qualifying teams onto seed number 32, which is Team Mantap. This is a team with finally a couple 4-digits and a 3-digit on it, but still placing near the bottom of the qualifiers. And again, not a lot of notable scores for this team. I think only 3 scores that were above 1 million in the qualifiers for team score for this one.
Mm-hmm. And now on to seed number 31, we have Team Bismillah, a team of primarily Hungarian players. Once again, it's same sort of deal here. We've got a few high-ranking players on this squad. Actually, 3 3-digits on this team in Workzoo, Z10A, and Thorn, but not really able to get the scores necessary to start to scratch the top 30 in this. But always, thank you for playing.
Yep. And that'll bring us to seed number 30 in the qualifiers. That is Sputnik Temple. Interesting name, harkening to the Sputnik map from OWC, but this full German roster not going to be able to make it on. Mostly 5-digits with a few 4-digits on the roster. And I think kind of the expected placement for a team like this is going to be around seed 30 in a tournament like this, where you have a lot of teams full of top players competing.
Mm-hmm. And now on to seed number 29, we have Team Her, which honestly, if you look at their ranks, I think this could be a bit of an overperformance for this team. A team with quite a few 5-digit players, some mid-level 4-digits, getting into the top 30, also defeating that team of Hungarian players with quite a few 3-digits on them. So props to them getting seed number 29, but still aren't really scratching the surface of the teams that are going to be really competitive here yet. And that is going to be, honestly, probably 10 seeds down the line.
Yeah. These teams all are teams that are getting, team scores in the 20s for pretty much all of the maps. Some scores above 1 million, but mostly scores still below 1 million at this point for most of the teams that we're talking about, including our next seeded team, that is Gugahu's Supremacy. They are seed number 28 out of the qualifiers. And this team, a roster filled with Brazilian players, actually. Quite a few high 4-digits and some 3-digits on this roster. So I think somewhat surprising to see a roster with relatively high-ranked players place in the low 20s. But the team scores don't lie. And unfortunately, this team did not have a great time through the qualifiers.
And now on to seed number 27. We actually have another primarily Brazilian team here in Reve Mene. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. But this team actually has a bit of a star player. They have Zeker, a former OWC Brazil player for actually many, many years on this roster, but ultimately not really able to do enough, I think. They have quite a few 5-digits on this roster as well. And that's, as we mentioned, not really going to be able to cut it for a 16-seed open rank tournament.
Yeah, and that will put us on to our next team, seed 26, is We Got Pinkus. And this is a team that I think is really funny. They've got Pinkus, and they've got a lot of 5 and 4 digits on the rest of the team. So a lot of the onus for qualifying would have been on Pincus himself for this roster. And unfortunately, as you see from the team scores here, not quite enough to qualify. They did get a top 16 score, actually, number 13 overall on the Hard Rock 1 with 1.8 million team score on that map. But every other map was bottom 20 except for their Nomad 4 team score. They were number 19 on that one, just squeaked into the top 20.
And they did have Pincus, but it wasn't enough. Now on to seed number 25, we have
some lead speak. We got some lead speak.
Yeah, we've got some characters on the screen. Team of primarily Russian and Ukrainian 4-digit players. And they were starting to get into the point where they're getting some decent performances on the qualifiers pool. Number 13 on Hidden 1 with a 1.4 million team score, which is not too shabby, but ultimately not with the average performance necessary to qualify in this tournament.
Yeah, another top 20 score on the Nomad 3 for this roster as well. Just over a million team score and number 18 overall on that map. But as you said, takes more than that to qualify, unfortunately. Not going to be around to 32 for this tournament. And with them not being in the top 16, not going to be able to make it into the bracket stage this time around. Next team up and seed number 24 overall is going to be Meloner, team of full German players for this roster. And quite a lot of tournament players, but mostly 4-digit tournament players on this roster. They also had a couple of standout scores, a couple of top 16 scores on both the Nomad 2 with 1.8 million team score, where they were number 12 overall, and number 16 on the DT3 with 1.4 million team score, where they were number 16 overall, and a couple other top 20 team scores as well, number 19 on the DT2, number 20 on the Nomad 1. So starting to see some teams with multiple standout scores here, but still, unfortunately, not enough for them to make their way into the round of 16.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the teams that are going to be scratching the surface here. Only 7 seeds remaining until we hit top 16. So let's get on to seed number 23. We've got Team Maribel Sweep, a team with mostly American players, also with their namesake Maribel, who is a very strong reading player. Actually, a couple of strong reading players on this team as well with Gilgamesh 815. But once again, not really going to be able to get the performance necessary, as you would expect for a team like this. Standout performance going to be that Hidden 2 reading map where they got number 15 on that leaderboard. But still, average performance. In order to get in, most of the teams that got in, their average score is in the top 16. So going to need more than just that one strength on the low AR Hidden.
Yeah, and another pretty standout score for Maribel Sweep on the Hidden 3 as well, number 17 on that map, with almost 1.6 million team score on that one. Surprisingly, top 20 on the DT2 as well for a team with a lot of reading players, 1.2 million on the DT2, not too shabby there. And another top 20 score on the Nomad 4 for this team as well, the Nomad reading pick, of course, with 1.1 million team score. So solid specialty maps for Maribel Sweep, but as Miles said, you need your average map to be about that good in order to qualify, and that's just not the case for Maribel Sweep. And unfortunately, nor is it the case for our next roster, Oregon State University, abbreviated OSU. This is a team with fully American players. I have to imagine some of them are from Oregon, and in fact, Dynamo is on this roster, so I know they have a player from Oregon on this team, but not going to be enough to qualify, unfortunately, for the Oregon-based mapper here. A couple of really good scores for this team. Top 16 on the Hidden 2 as well, with about 1.27 million team score, just below Maribel Sweep. And top 20 on a few maps, actually. Hard Rock 1, they were number 18. Hard Rock 3, they were number 19 overall. Nomad 1, they were number 18 overall. And all of their scores were top 25, with the exception of Nomad 3. So pretty good performance across the board. But again, just not quite good enough across the board to get into the round of 16.
Close, but no cigar. Sometimes those are the most painful losses. But yeah, now on to seed number 21. We have Team Temp Name. Actually, quite the interesting roster, only having 5 players: Skill, Fibeth, Loju, Chido, and Garino. For only 5 players, I'd say it's pretty impressive to get seed 21 in this qualifier, wouldn't you think, Dio?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a roster that I think made use of their strengths really well. Not a single Nomad or Hidden was top 20 for this roster, but they were number 13 overall on the Hard Rock 2 with 1.5 million team score. They were number 14 overall on the DT1 and number 11 overall on the DT3. So clearly some solid strengths for this roster. But unfortunately, much like Oregon State University, the rest of the field for this team was in those mid-20s, and that's just not enough to make it into round of 16, despite how well they were able to play with only 5 people.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and now we're going to use that to segue into our 20th seed, getting really close to qualifying teams now. We have team I'm actually crying right now. And, you know, they might be figuring out that they're not qualifying, but this team averaged pretty good. They've got a number 15 performance on that Hidden one, and they also have, honestly, just a pretty solid average, being around 20 on most maps in the map pool.
Yeah, this is also a team of entirely 5 digits, believe it or not. The entire team is 5-digit for this roster, beating out lots of teams with good 4-digit and 3-digit tournament players. And even in spite of the rank gap, they were still able to put up pretty good scores. And as you might imagine, a lot of their worst scores were on mechanics maps. Nomad 1, they were number 30 overall, and on some of the DTs, they were in the mid-20s, but very good, consistent, high-placing performances on a lot of the gimmick maps. Number 21 on the Nomad 2 as well, but number 19 on the Nomad 3, number 18 on the Nomad 4, number 15 on the Hidden 1 as well, and number 21 on the Hidden 2 with a couple more top 20s in the Hard Rock pool as well. So, you know, despite the weakness on some of the mechanics maps, still able to do really well on a lot of the more gimmicky maps. And that's often how it is for these teams full of lower ranked players in open rank tournaments.
Mm-hmm, that's the thing. With 5-digit D rankers, they're usually extremely strong on some of the gimmickier picks because, you know, you can't really rank up on those gimmick maps. Like, if you're a speed player in 5-digit, by default, you should be able to rank up easily to high 4-digit if you're a D ranker level. But these gimmick players, they tend to stick around in 5-digit and set some really good scores while they're there. So now on to seed number 19, we have Team Kotiki.
Yeah, it's a roster full of mostly Russian players with one Kazakhstani player on the team, mostly 4-digit as well, with their highest player being ranked 1017 in Suzuha. And another team filled with pretty good tournament players, setting some pretty solid scores across their lobby. Top 15 on both Nomad 1 and Nomad 2 in their qualifiers run. Top 20 on every single hidden map. And mid-20s on all the Hard Rock, but number 19 on DT1, number 14 on DT3, and number 8, top 8 for this team on the DT2 with almost 1.8 million team score. So really solid performance on the DT pool overall, and especially the speed maps for this roster, but just not quite able to make it in, I think, due to the lower scores on some of the Nomads and Hard Rocks across this pool.
Mm-hmm. Now, on to seed number 18. We are 2 seeds away from qualifying. We have Team Yotsubaism. This is really unfortunate. A team with a lot of extremely experienced Hispanic tournament players on this roster, setting some insane scores on the qualifier pool as well, getting rank number 6 on the Nomad 2, rank number 7 on the Hidden 1, but unfortunately being tanked a lot by some of their lower scores, getting number 29th on the Nomad 4, I think is the reason this team didn't qualify.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of the scores for this team, and a lot of them look like they could really compete with some of the stronger teams in the tournament. Number 12 on the Nomad 1, top 6 on the Nomad 2 with 2.4 million team score. Number 7 on the Hidden 1 with 1.8 million team score, and another top 10 score on the DT1. And even their scores that weren't top 16 were usually close. Number 17 on Nomad 3, Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 3, and DT2, number 18 on DT3, and number 19 on Hard Rock 2. Like, there were a lot of really good scores for this team, very close to being top 16 on a huge amount of maps for this team, but just not quite enough. And I think a lot of it is, as you said, due to that Nomad 4 and due to some of the maps in the Hidden pool where they were number 22 on both the Hidden 2 and Hidden 3.
Mm-hmm. Now, time for the most tragic placement you could get in any qualifier. The last seed that is not going to qualify for the tournament. We have seed number 17, Team This Baby. So unfortunate. This team of, honestly, a very diverse team. We have quite a few American players. We have a Korean player. We have a Dutch player. We have a Malaysian player. All of which very experienced tournament players. I think I'm looking a lot at players like Lunasa, Mouse Player, Easy Chalk. Chillington 15, Hunter. Like, these guys always in their prime would be able to qualify, but just falling just short, unfortunately.
Yeah, Hunter, previously known as Headstack, Chillington 15, previously known as Manivat, and Matthew as well on this team with Mejiro McQueen and Ahio. This is a team that I think if you went up against them, you would still be scared of this roster most of the time, but unfortunately just not able to qualify barely into this tournament. Multiple top 10s for this team with a number 6 score on Nomad 4 and the number 10 score on Hidden 3 overall, and 5 other top 16 scores in their qualifier run. Top 16 on the Nomad 3, number 15 on the Hard Rock 3, and number 16 on both DT1, DT2, and number 15 on DT3. But Hard Rock 1 seed 28. And of course, number 22, Nomad 1, number 19, Nomad 2, number 21, Hidden 1, number 19, Hidden 2. Those lower scores are just barely enough to bring them below what was needed to qualify. And unfortunately, we will not be seeing them in SSOT, but that is the last team on this list that we will not be seeing. From here on out, everyone has qualified. If you haven't heard your team's name yet, you are in the round of 16 bracket, and congratulations to you and your team. And now we'll start off with the very first team in the bracket. Seed number 16 in the qualifiers is True.
Them qualifying is true. And one thing I'd like to point out actually is I think this is quite a rare occurrence where there is actually a massive leap in percent sum, which is the scoring for this qualifier, between seed number 17 and seed number 16 by almost 0.5. So it wasn't necessarily that close between seed 17 and 16, but Team True, a team of some hard-hitting OWC experienced players such as Raf GPO from Ukraine, Handsome Me from Russia, and one more player I need to scroll.
Dasuk as well from Russia is very good. Yeah,
extremely strong Russian player, and Shinkiro from Turkey. They only have 7 players, but this team is very hard hitting when they're playing at their best.
Yeah, and you can see that in the results. Solid scores across the first 3 mod pools for this team. Number 16 on the Nomad 1, number 15 on the Nomad 4, number 10 on the Hidden 1, 11 on the Hidden 2, and number 6 on the Hidden 3, with number 7 on both Hard Rock 2 and Hard Rock 3. If you have to point out a weakness for this team, it's in some of the aim mechanics and in some of the stream mechanics. Number 20 on the Nomad 2, 21 on the Nomad 3 as well, number 19 on the Hard Rock 1, and then 18, 21, and 20 on the DT 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So if you have to point out a weak area for this team that's dragging down that qualifier scoring a little bit, definitely going to be the DT pool, with a couple of scattered other maps throughout the Nomad, Hidden, and Hard Rock pools that are a little worse on average than their other performances that clearly brought them into the qualifiers.
And now onto seed number 15, we have another team, Gort, a team that I think has a very distinct strength in their aim plays, with players like Karomi and Hanori and Knight and Sedru. I think there's a lot of tournament experience on this team, and I think it's no surprise that this team is going to qualify for SSOT.
Yeah, a lot of really solid players as well. Shedis is a 3-digit World Cup player for Poland right now, and their 3WC team unfortunately eliminated, but Shedis looked really good during the 3-digit World Cup for Poland while they were still in the bracket as well. So I think a lot of really solid up-and-coming players for this roster. And one of the things about this team that we haven't seen so far is a lack of real weakness to the roster. Number 19 on Nomad 1, number 18 on Nomad 2, number 18 on the Hidden 3, sure, not great scores, but they were top 16 on every other map in the pool, and they were number 8 overall on the Hard Rock 3. So there's really not any particular mod pool or any particular skill set that you can look at and say this team is really uncomfortable at, which I think is a really big asset. Maybe not into the number 2 seeded team overall, as of course, round of 16 bracket, you're going to get seed 1 versus seed 16, seed 2 versus seed 15. So their round of 16 match, maybe it won't be the greatest asset there, but the quarterfinals losers bracket round 1 match, I think is going to make them a very scary opponent for the first team that they are kind of evenly matched up against.
Always a tough matchup for the lower seeds at the start of a tournament. Like the teams down here, they're going to be facing up against some teams filled with real, insane top players. So
yeah,
going to be a tough uphill battle, but obviously this team did qualify. They're going to have their chance to prove themselves in the bracket stage, which is always great to see. So we're going to use this to segue into seed number 14. We've got another team with a lot of seasoned tourney players coming up. Wait, we're goated. And I mean, you qualified, so you might be pretty goated. A team with Lesperi on it, who is one of, I think, the biggest prodigies in the game right now in the 3-digit scene, a guy who has the potential to really go up to the top of the tourney scene, and joined by other well-established tourney players like Sigi, Sherry Tori, and Deppy Force as well, to be a really good backing group.
Yeah, I mean, the whole roster is seasoned tourney players of one caliber or another, right? I think even the weaker players on this roster are still players who have been through tons and tons of different tournaments, and you can't really point out a single player on this roster who doesn't have that tourney experience, and that's really where you're starting to get into with, top 16 and top 12 soon enough, as we're on number 14, is these types of rosters that have players who know what they're doing in tournament and have been around the block more than a few times and are really comfortable in places like this. Top 16 on every map in the pool except for Hard Rock 3, DT1, and DT2. They were number 18 on the Hard Rock 3, number 20 on the DT1, and number 19 on the DT3. But there's more maps where they're top 16 than not. And again, that type of consistency is always really valuable as well. 2 top 8 finishes. They were number 6 on both the Nomad 3 with 1.8 million team score and on the Hard Rock 1 with 2 million team score. So some clear strengths for this roster. Overall, really solid team and very few weaknesses to abuse for this team.
Really going to have their work cut out from them, though. They're going to be facing the 3rd seeded team in the round of 16. But once again, I think in a similar situation as Team Gort, where we're going to be looking at this team to really do some damage in the early losers bracket stages. And now on to team seeded at 13, sorry. We've got team Sweden Sweep incoming, which funnily enough is actually a team of full French players. So a lot of French OWC experience here. Fie, Mbappe, Hifkill, Charlie, Musty, Kalangi, Lexana, and Nessie. Very strong French players here. Been around the block a few times, like Dio said about the last team. Musty, I think, playing OWC for over a decade. So lots of tourney experience here. You know that they all know each other's strengths. They've played with each other before. And that's one of the benefits you really have with a team all coming from the same nationality.
Yeah. This is also the first team with only 2 maps not in the top 16. Those would be the Hidden 2 and the DT3, so the low AR reading map in Hidden and the high BPM stream map in Double Time. But every other map in the pool, they were top 16, and they were top 8 on 3 maps. That is the second time we've seen that, actually. Number 6 on the Nomad 1 with 2.7 million team score. Number 5 on the Hidden 1 with 1.8 million. And number 8 on the Hard Rock 1 with 1.9 million. So really strong on those more consistency-focused maps. The Nomad 1 and Hard Rock 1 in particular, both aim maps, but the Hidden 1 as well, a little bit more consistency-focused. Definitely some flow aim and some finger control on that map, but still some aim component to that one as well. Really solid overall run for this team with 11 out of 13 maps in the top 16. Very well done from them. And I think a good team to segue us into the top 12. We're now getting into the middle seeded teams. Seed 13, you have to face a team that qualified top 4. But if you're seed 12, like Koyori's Nazgor, you're facing seed number 5. We're into the middle matchups now in the round of 16.
Koyori's Nazgor, we have a primarily Asian team here with a lot of strong players from mostly Indonesia and the Philippines. So once again, I think now going forward, it's just a given. All of these teams are filled to the brim with extremely seasoned tournament players who know what they're good at, know how to play well in these high pressure situations. And now once again, being in the mid seed, these are where you're going to really see some of the most competitive matches in the round of 16. And this team, it really has it. Like, they've got everything. They've got veteran talent in players like Skydiver, Hakui Koyori, Nazuna Amemiya, and they've got also some newer talent as well. So really going to be looking forward to how this team faces up against the, I think, 8th seed that we haven't gone over yet.
That would be the 5th seed they're facing
5th
off
seed,
again.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do math.
a little bit different from the 8th seed, but nonetheless, still one of the middle matchups. Again, this is a team with only 3 maps not in the top 16, and those 3 maps they were number 17, 17, and 18 on. So still pretty solid overall. A couple of top 5 finishes for them on the Nomad 2 and the DT1, and another top 8 finish with a 7th place on the DT3. So really solid overall qualifier run for this team, and a scary opponent for anyone, even one of those higher seeded teams in the middle of the bracket.
Mm-hmm. And now on to seed number 11, we've got Team Bunny Battalion. I think maybe one of the strongest players we've seen so far in the tournament present on this team in Corian Maluco, one of the strongest players in Brazil for such a long time now, just such a rock solid player. And he's got such a good surrounding cast with him as well on this team with players like Ophiz and Vesprit as well. Lots of OWC experience there. And this team, I think, is going to be really good to watch in round of 16 when they have a close matchup in seeding.
Yeah, Ophiz, Vesprit, Rico are all veteran tournament players. I've seen a lot of good things about Lirumin, and I've seen Sunwraith kind of on the up and up through United States Cup as well, if you watch those regional tournaments. Izzy as well is on this team from Brazil, top 225 player for their side, and captained by Miao, who unfortunately I don't know too much about actually. But this team, again, still a really solid overall performance for them. I think just 2 maps where they were not top 16, and those were number 17 and number 19. So again, you're getting really high levels of consistency from all of these teams at this point. 2 top 8 finishes for this team, so a little bit more consistent and a little bit less of the pop-off performances to get them to this point. Number 4 overall with nearly 3 million team score on the Nomad 1, and number 6 overall with just over 2 million team score on the Hard Rock 3. As well, actually, I missed this one, number 5 on the Hidden 2. Really solid performance on the low AR reading map in Hidden, over 2 million team score on that one.
Mm-hmm. And now on to our next seed, number 10, we have Team Watson, another team with a lot of firepower. I'm looking specifically at Rudge, Vinopoly, Riot, and Dido on this roster, because if they can get those 4 players in the lobby at the same time, I really don't know what teams are going to be able to beat that. There is just so much strength there.
Yeah. If you're watching other big tournaments right now, you'll know that 3-digit World Cup is going on, and that Dido is absolutely carrying Indonesia right now. Indonesia has a 4-player roster there, and they made it into top 12 this weekend, beating Poland, who had a full roster in the losers bracket. So Dido has been absolutely popping off. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on some of the maps we have in store in the round of 16. And as well, I think one of the name changes got you, Miles. You forgot to mention Haunt actually painted Koala with a 0.
No
another
way.
name change there, actually. Yeah. So another really well-known tournament player there, and a couple of other really good American players as well, reused in 315, both really solid. And Gat Money TJ 1994 is actually Aleph from Spain, all caps, all spaces, Aleph, who's
God.
another really insanely good tournament player. So a couple of name changes to trick you on this one, but a very, very good team nonetheless. Our first number 1 team on any map, number 1 on the Nomad 4 with 2.5 million team score, number 4 overall on the Hard Rock 2 with almost 2 million team score, and number 7 on both the DT1 and the Nomad 1 with almost 3 million on the DT1 and 2.7 million on the Nomad 1. A couple of other weaknesses for this team: they have 3 maps outside the top 16 in the qualifiers for this roster, but their strengths they are very, very good at.
Mm-hmm. Those name changes got me, man. I didn't know who those players were, but now that you mentioned that's Haunt,
quite a few of them.
There's a lot of, honestly, balance on that team now that you put those names into the mix, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how this team plays in round of 16. Another mid-seeded team, gonna get a mid-seeded matchup, gonna be a great round of 16 watch. But now on to seed number 9, we have Team Washingtoa, a team of American players. Also a team that I think has a lot of synergy, quite a few players on this team being on the 4-digit World Cup Team United States winning team, like Conrad, Twilight, RNG, along with some Washington players in Jacob 3 and WarpsCon. There's going to be, and RME Fan, there's going to be a lot of synergy on this team. They know what they're good at, they know what they're going to pick, and I think it definitely reflects in their qualifiers results.
Yeah, Faker 3 made it to the open rank tournaments, baby. Watch United States Cup last year. You know, Jacob 3 is actually a extremely good tournament player, even in the United States. He was able to carry Washington to quite a few points in United States Cup last year. He's somebody to watch out for, even among some of the other more well-known players on this team, like Twilight or RNG or Conrad Mitten. And this is a team, again, where you've got quite a lot of consistently high performances rather than a couple of really, really strong performances and some slightly weaker performances. Top 3 on the Hidden 2. This is a very good reading team with 2.2 million team score on that one. Number 5 on the Nomad 3 and number 7 on the Hidden 3. And those are their only top 8 performances through the qualifiers. But they were only outside the top 16 on one map on the Hard Rock 2. So the level of consistency for this roster is really high across the board. There's not a lot that you can pick into this team that they're going to be explicitly weak on, and that is what makes these middle-seeded teams so strong and so scary to go up against. Especially, this is seed number 9. The very next team we're going to talk about is their opponent in the round of 16. So good luck to both of these teams. Our 8th seeded team out of the qualifiers is Jashin no Konre.
And now this team, I think, is extremely scary to be qualifying at only seed number 8. There is just boundless amounts of OWC talent on this team, and players like Saiku, Xylus, Welter, Aimbot Cone, Spectre on that second place Korean team, Gamer, one of the hard hitters on Team Russia as well. This team can really hit you in a lot of different places, and I think is going to be a really scary opponent for Team Washington, despite their really defined strengths.
Yeah, even Coda as well. Not necessarily an OWC player, but I think that's more so because he's from the United States than anything else. Coda in most other countries would be a pretty solid addition to most WC teams, and you see that a lot in tournaments like America's Draft Showdown or United States Cup. Again, these regionally restricted tournaments where some of the less well-known players in the region are allowed to shine. There's just so much talent in North America when it comes to OS that it's really hard to shine if you are from the United States. You just don't get that time in the spotlight in the OS World Cup. Jashin no Konre, or no Konre, excuse me, top 16 on literally every map in the pool, and quite a few top 8 finishes. Number 7 on the Hard Rock 1 with about 2 million team score. Number 6 on the Hidden 1 with about 1.8 million team score. Number 5 on both DT1 and DT3 with 3.6 million team score on the DT1 and 2.4 million on the DT3, and number 3 overall on the DT2 with 2.9 million team score. So you want to talk about full roster consistency? Yeah, seed 9 only had one map where they were outside the top 16. This is now the part of the field where we're getting the teams that have no maps outside the top 16, where they are just extremely consistent across every skill set and very scary still, with top 3 performances and top 5 performances all over the place.
Definitely going to be a match you want to put on your schedule, I think. Washington versus Jashin no Konre. That's going to be a very good match. But now, seed number 7...
1 second, Miles. Before we go on, I do see the concerns in chat about this team only having 3 players. That is actually not the case. They did have 4 players for all of their maps, and the scores that are the results are based off of are calculating using all 4 players. So the results are not wrong. The graphics might not have some of the scores, but the seeding that you see on screen is correct. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that before we move on, because yeah, some people, there have been qualifier result streams before in other tournaments where the results have been wrong on stream and changed later, but that's not the case here. We do have the correct results on stream, even if not all the scores are shown for some teams.
That's always the nightmare scenario. I've seen like Sweegie Cups where, say, they'd be a player that dropped out of the tournament that ends up getting drafted to a team, and then they have to redo the whole draft.
Yeah,
always a nightmare, but not gonna happen here. So
I've had it happen to me before too, man. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Yeah, nightmare scenario indeed. It's terrible. All right.
Yeah, gonna use this to transition into our seed number 7. They're going to be facing up against Team Watson. We have Team Grease Monkey Deluxe, a team with mostly Nordic players, lots of Norwegian players on this team, such as Paper Candle, Hunder, Yolkspie, Penguinzy, and Melver, but also joined by some other players like Andros, Rafis, and Bunny Like Money, which I think if you're taking 3 players who aren't Norwegian on that team, those are some 3 damn good players to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Norway is a country that in the World Cup typically struggles to field a full 4-player roster for a lot of maps because they have a lot of players in the country who are good at really particular things, right? Like Penguinzy, for example, really good at the speed, Yolkspie really good at the reading. Unfortunately, their skill sets don't really mesh together really well. You have a couple other people on this team who can supplement that and make those other skill sets be able to have those full 4 players, and suddenly you have a very scary roster. And to boot, as a reminder, there's a unique format in this tournament where not all maps need 4 players. You're going to have some maps that only need 1 player, some maps that need 2, some maps that need 3, and some maps that need 4. So specialist players like Yolkspie in a tournament like this can be extremely scary if their specialty happens to line up with a 1 slot. So I think this is a very scary team in the bracket stage, despite only being seeded 7th. And again, a team where they have no weaknesses out of the qualifiers. They are top 16 on literally every map. They were number 3 on 2 separate maps, both the Nomad 1 and the DT 1, with 2.6 million and 3.7 million team score on those maps respectively. Number 4 on the Hidden 1 with 1.9 million team score on that one, and top 8 on both the Nomad 3 and Nomad 4. Really solid team-wide results for Grease Monkey Deluxe in this one.
That point you made about how they do on our tournament format, I think is a great point, Dio, because it's like a lot of these teams with like single strong specialists are gonna be able to really put those more to use, where in other tournaments you really need to have all-rounders to field on 4-player rosters for really specialized maps. That's not going to happen here. And I think there's also some really great synergy on this team between players like Bunny Like Money and Andros, like both of those players being top stream players of all time on some of these like very difficult metal maps on stream leaderboards everywhere. I think this team is going to do a great job in this bracket. Yeah,
just to further encapsulate that, Hidden 2, this team was number 12. Yolkspie was half of their team score. So yeah, if you run into this team and there happens to be a 1 slot and it's a reading map, maybe you want to consider banning that out. And that'll bring us on to our next team, on to seed number 6 out of the qualifiers. It is Optimus Prime Rib, a team with a bunch of American players. In fact, full USA roster for this team with Taro, Rhythmic RS, Almighty Door, Tallulah, Decaton, Erison, and Razorfruit. This is a scary team.
Yeah, definitely an extremely scary team. I'd like to note the return of Erison. I don't think I've seen this guy play a tournament since, I think, OWC 2021. And bringing him back is going to be huge because this team packs a lot of, I think, America's biggest strength in tournaments, which is just the high mechanics. Players like Taro, Rhythmic RS, Tallulah, Erison, Razorfruit, all extremely proficient mechanics players. And that's even discounting players like Decaton, who is just arguably one of the best players in the United States right now. And also Almighty Door with the reading, probably going to be relying on him a lot for some of those 1-slot reading picks that, spoiler alert, might be somewhere down the line in this tournament.
Yeah, and this is also the first team that I can talk about where it's easier to list the maps that they were not top 8 on than the maps they were top 8 on. The only maps they were not in the top 8 for were Nomad 4, Hidden 1, Hard Rock 3, and DT 1. Those 4 maps, they were not top 8. They were still top 16. Every other map in the pool, they were top 8 on, and they were number 3 as well on the DT3. That carry score from Erison doing a lot of work there. And again, if you have a super high BPM stream finger control DT map and it's in a 1 slot, maybe you consider banning that out against a team with Erison on it, right? So this is a team that has both across the board consistency, even as a 4-player roster, and some really good specialists to go along with it to play those 1 and 2 slots to make sure that the team is covered on all bases.
And this team is going to be going up against our 12th seeded Kaori's Nazgul. So I wish
11th seeded Bunny
okay.
Battalion.
I'm messing up the math.
Add to 17, Miles. Add to 17.
Okay. Well, I'll try not to get that wrong anymore. Now the team actually facing Kaori's Nazgul is going to be our 5th seeded team, who we're going to go into right now. The Empaths at seed 5. A team once again full of mostly USA players. They've got Arj as well from San Marino and Painted Koala from Israel. But if the United States 4WC players aren't on Team Washington, they're going to be here on the Empaths. Players like Fatball, one of the best up-and-comers in the US, along with Pez, And You're Cute, another player really getting up there in skill, going to be trying to push the OWC level this year. I think this team just covers on all bases, and Dio's going to explain that with their results.
Yeah, I also want to shout out a couple other players on this roster, particularly Gaby and Arco on this roster. You don't really need to shout out Swick or Painted Koala or Arj. I think a lot of people who follow open rank tournaments will know them. Gaby, a really good reading player who has been really solid on lots of different kind of gimmicky maps throughout open rank tournaments recently. And Arco is somebody who doesn't play a lot of tournaments, but play tests a lot of tournaments, gets replays for lots of open rank tournaments. And he's somebody who can get replays for like 1v1 open rank grand finals and still drop 500-600k, right? This guy is really, really solid, even into really high skill cap. And I think players like that who are a little less known in tournament play in particular are going to be really solid assets for some of these teams. And to talk about their results in particular, only one map where they were not top 16, that was the DT1. They had 3 maps where they were top 3. They were number 3 overall on the Hidden 1 with 1.9 million team score, number 2 on the Hard Rock 2 with 2.3 million team score, and number 1 on Nomad 1 with 3.2 million team score. Every other map in the pool, they were at least top 16, but most of them, they were top 8. Nomad 2, Nomad 3, and of course the DT1 where they were number 17. Those are the only maps where they're not top 8. So yeah, tons and tons of top 8 performances for this team. And again, as we get now into the top 4, the expectation is that you are getting top 8 on basically every map in the pool, because that's what's demanded of teams at the highest level in tournaments like this.
And to bring up Arco again, I just thought of this comparison. The more you talk about him, the more I think of him as 4-digit Rectigon. He doesn't play every tournament, but when he does, you know he's going to be damn good at almost every map, and his skill cap is definitely going to be there to boot on this map pool.
Yeah.
But now into the top 4, these are the teams I think starting here where every single player on the 8-man roster is going to be considered a top player in one way or another. So we're going to start off with the first of the top 4 in Team Stockfish, a team with 8 players who you know for their tournament prowess: Badu, Lucrece, Roly, Eternum, Yeri, Suwagi, Kamenchik, and Lifeline. 8 players who, if you've looked at a tournament in the last 3 years, you've probably seen at least half of these names somewhere.
Yeah, just the first half of the roster is the 4 players who consistently carry maps for Romania in the US World Cup. Romania in 2022 was top 6 in the World Cup, largely due to these players and their standout performances. And then you have Yeri, Suwagi, Kamenchik, and Lifeline. Yeri, up-and-coming German player in tournament, is already top 50, basically. Number 52 right now, according to the sheet at least, and is an extremely good speed and hard rock player. Suwagi's just a tournament god, has been around for a couple of years at this point. You should probably know his name, as should you know Lifelines, who was number 2 for a very long period of time before being passed by a Qualifier earlier this year. And if you watched OWC last year in 2023, you should know the name Kamenchik. Kamenchik is now top 30 and was one of the driving forces behind Kazakhstan almost actually winning a match in the OS World Cup this year after never having played a qualifiers before in the OS World Cup, which is extremely rare to even qualify, let alone to almost win a match with a roster like that for a team, for a country that had never even played in the World Cup before.
That was absolutely insane. I remember during that qualifier stream, I was doing that showcase as well. I remember seeing beforehand Kazakhstan qualifying, and that was the most insane thing to me, because I'm pretty sure they have another D ranker in that country. I think Ravexi.
Yes.
And like it was Kamenchik and Ravexi really popping off on that qualifier for Kazakhstan to qualify. But Kamenchik, man, like such a strong up-and-comer. Really excited to see how he does hanging with some of the top tourney players in the world in this team. And now I think we should use this opportunity to segue into seed number 3.
Well, let's talk their results for just a moment, because this is yet another team where they have 10 out of 13 maps where they are top 8. 2 of those maps, they were number 9 and number 11 on the Hard Rock 1 and Hidden 1 respectively, and number 17 on the Nomad 1. But this is also the first team where we have multiple number 1 scores for a team. Number 1 on both Hidden 3 and Hard Rock 3 for this team. So very, very strong on multiple different types of maps. Strong across the board, of course, as expected of a top 4 team, but with some of those really solid strengths to boot, and as well to tack it on a number 3 on the Hard Rock 2. So an extremely good Hard Rock team overall.
But once again, a team that arguably has no weakness. I think this team should do very well in this tournament out of round of 16. But now finally, we'll actually segue into the third seeded team. We've got Team Chippy Chippy Chapa Chapa with the cat gif as their profile picture, as per usual. Honestly, this team has 7 players. That's one thing I'd like to mention about them off the bat. Some very strong players on this team can enable a 7-player team to get top 3 in this qualifier. Just listen to some of these names: Ciccone, Scrowl, Inner Camping, Allegrissimo, Akolibed, Arnold, and Whitecat. These are players who could all really tussle in even the open rank 1v1 scene. Like, you have multiple players who are Corsace closed caliber on this team, and that is how strong you have to describe them as.
And that's really the standard for all of our top 3 teams here. The qualifier results see a pretty big gap in terms of percent sum between the number 3 and number 4 teams. Number 4 has a 9.9% sum, which is the metric being used here. Number 3 has an 11.2 percent sum. So over 1.0 difference. We have not seen that at all going from any of the teams to any of the next teams since literally the bottom 3 teams, or the bottom 2 teams, excuse me, seed 34 and 35. So the gap between top 3 and the rest of the teams out of qualifiers is pretty big, and the gap between the top 3 teams is pretty small, within 0.2 of each other for all of the top 3 teams, going from 3 to 2 to 1. So extremely competitive and close qualifier results among all top 3 teams, which I think makes a tournament like this really exciting, especially in the later stages with those top 3 teams duking it out. As for Chippy Chippy Chapa Chapa, this is also a team that has multiple number 1s, of course. Number 1 on the Nomad 2, number 1 on the DT1 with 4.2 million team score, and number 1 on the DT3 with 3.6 million team score. They also have 4 number 2s, with number 2 on the DT2, 3 million team score, number 2 on the Hard Rock 1, 2.7 million team score, number 2 on the Hidden 1 with 2 mil, and number 2 on the Nomad 1 with 3 mil. They also have a number 3 on Nomad 3 with 2.5 mil. Like, this is a team that is top 8 on every map and top 3 on over half the maps in qualifiers. That's really what it takes to get into the top 3, and it's part of why this top 3 is so competitive, is because the gap between number 4 and number 3 is, our number 4 team is the first team to have multiple number 1s. Our number 3 team is the first team to have multiple number 1s and multiple number 2s and have every map in the top 8.
Dio, you reckon, even though this team has 7 players, you reckon if they're all playing at their best, this team can win the tournament?
I reckon that's true for any of the top 3 teams, actually.
And that would probably be right, but now I think this next one might come as a surprise to some people. Our number 2 seed, we have Team Suntan, a team that has Emrek and Malashevsky on it, just to name their top 2 players, just some names you might be familiar with, but also joined by Neneric, Gnahus, Matthew, Kriller, Zudinator, and Flying Tuna. Every player on this team is a legend in some form or another. Like, we're getting to the point where it's like, if you're drafting an all-star team, this could be one of them.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot more to add to that, right? Every single player on this team is Corsair's closed caliber. I think almost all of them have actually played that tournament. I don't know if Kriller has, but he's won Corsair's Open before also, so does it really matter anyway?
He definitely has.
Yeah. And then, of course, again, for this team, as with our number 3 team, top 8 on every map in the pool. There are 4 maps out of 13 where there are not top 3. So 9 top 3s out of 13 maps in the pool. Number 1 on Nomad 3 and DT2 with 2.7 mil and 3.7 mil respectively. Number 2 on Hidden 2, DT1 and DT3, 2.3 mil on the Hidden 2, 4.2 on the DT1 and 3.6 mil on the DT3. And then number 3 on 4 maps as well for them: Nomad 4, Hidden 3, Hard Rock 1, and Hard Rock 3. 2.3 mil on the Nomad 4, 2.8 on the Hidden 3, 2.7 on the Hard Rock 1, and 2.7 on the Hard Rock 3. There's no weakness. They're good at everything. It's an all-star roster. They have specialists. They have all-rounders. They have people with skill cap. They have people who are really consistent in early rounds. There's not a lot you can point at to say that this team is weak. And that is, again, the case for every roster in the top 3.
They have Emrek and Malashevsky too. That's something I'd like to add on to that.
Yeah, that's 2v2 maps are very scary
2v2
against
maps.
this team.
Like, who's beating those two on any map? Like, genuinely. Well, I mean, I guess obviously you're going to be looking at some of the players on our next team, the team that beat them in the qualifiers. We have the first seeded team out of qualifiers, second seeded team by BWS, team I'm Korean 2.
Yeah, this team is also insane. You look at the roster for this team, and every single name should strike fear in the heart. Zhong Wuyong, worst HR player, MCY4, Boshiman741, Rectigon, Window Life, Enri, and Restia. I think if you talk to a lot of people before the start of this tournament, they would have pointed out either Suntan or Chippy Choppa as a potential number one team. But I'm Korean 2. The roster for this team is filled with some absolutely incredible tournament players across the board. Even the players who are more so specialists on this team have still been grinding tournaments for a really long time and are really good. Just there's no... I don't know how to put it, man. All the teams are awesome. We're in the top three. They're all great.
This team,
they're all amazing.
I think the one way that they could probably tussle with that other team, Suntan, is the format of the tournament. Like, yeah, you have Malashevsky and Emrek on a 2v2, but what about like worst HR player and Enri on a 2v2? Like, if you're picking two players out of the rest of the world to tussle with them, it might as well be of some of those two. Like Rectigon on mechanics on a one slot, like that could be the type of player to maybe contest Emrek. I mean, we saw that happen at the roundtable LAN at the Battle Royale. Like, this, I think these top two seeds are right now probably the two that you want to slot in as like grand finals prediction. But obviously the tournament hasn't even started yet. Right now, this is just the qualifiers results. But this team out of qualifiers is going to be definitely scary. I mean, definitely telling by the fact that they're the number one seed.
Yeah. Just to talk a little bit about the results instead of the players, they are top three on every map from Nomad 1 to Hard Rock 3. The only maps where they were not top three were the 3 double times, and that's it. So every single map that isn't double time is you're competing against one of the 3 best teams in the tournament on that particular map. DT1, they were still number 8. DT2, they were still number 7. And DT3, they were still number 4 overall. So these are some really, really solid scores from this team. Number 1 on 4 different maps, which is the most that we've seen of any team so far. Number 2 on 5 separate maps as well. And their only number 3 was on the Nomad 1. So they were top 2 on every map from Nomad 2 to Hard Rock 3. Which is kind of incredible, to put it that way, right? They were either the best or second best team on 9 out of 13 maps in the pool.
So I guess right now, their ban into Suntan is going to be DT4 on the off chance that it is a speed pick. And maybe that's the only thing we could point out as a weakness of this roster.
Well, we'll see if it's a weakness soon, as we'll be getting into the showcase shortly. But now that we are done with all of the team results, we want to introduce the bracket to you all, and we should be getting that up shortly to show the round of 16. And there we are. There is the bracket to start us off here. We're going to have I'm Korean 2 versus True, Suntan versus Gort, Chippy Choppa versus Wait We're Goated, Stockfish versus Sweden Sweep Incoming, Empaths versus Koyori's Nazgor, Optimus Prime Rib versus Bunny Battalion, Grease Monkey Deluxe versus Watson, and Jushin Conray versus Washing Toa. Those 4 matches on the right-hand side of your screen are going to be the middle seed matches. Those are going to be the close matches to watch in round of 16, or on paper, the close matches to watch in round of 16. On the left-hand side of the bracket, you've got seed 1, 2, 3, 4 versus seeds 16, 15, 14, and 13, respectively.
I know a lot of people might think that those matches on the left could be sweeps, but, you know, things do happen. Like, say, maybe a player doesn't show up. Those matches could also be close. We've seen strange things happen in OC tournaments. And also the map pool going to be at quite an accessible star rating, sorry. So definitely something where even the lower seeded teams that have qualified, if they do put in the practice, if they are good on those maps, they could take some of those higher seeded teams to a later match, a match that goes maybe all the way to the distance to tiebreaker.
It's going to be an interesting round of 16. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to seeing how these teams adapt to the pool once we get there and once we start talking about the map pool. But it's going to be a fun tournament. This is a tournament with a pretty unique format. It's going to be something that I think a lot of players and teams haven't really seen before. And it's going to be a tournament where different teams are put to the test with how well they can strategize based on the changes to the map pool week to week, as well as how well their roster can stack up in different formats against other rosters, which isn't something you usually have to think about, but is going to be really interesting, I think, for this tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for example, whoever has the hottest hand on the day, even if they're on a lower seeded team, they could pick maps that are on the 1 or the 2 slot so they can have that situation where they're putting their best players in the situation where they're able to win points. And you might see those higher seeded teams also go for the 3 and 4 picks in that same regard.
All right. And that's going to do it for us for the qualifier results. We're going to take a short 5-minute break to allow Miles and I to go grab some and allow you all to go grab a drink and a snack yourselves before we get back to go over the round of 16 map pool. Thank you all for watching. Congratulations to the 16 teams that have qualified, and we'll see you in about 5 minutes for the round of 16 map pool showcase. webcam.
Excellent. All good.
All good. Unmuted? Chat. All right.
Back.
All right. Now, welcome back to SSOT. I wanted to give a quick rundown of what we're going to do here before we get into the Mappool showcase. I know we're all waiting for the round of 16 Mappool, but we have an exciting announcement for you all before the round of 16 Mappool showcase gets started. We have the pleasure of announcing the Content Creation Showdown for SSOT. It is a competition where content creators will be called in to create videos centered around SSOT with a cash prize at stake for the winning videos.
So if you're a content creator and you want to make some highlight video or really any type of video about SSOT, you have the chance to compete for a cash prize that I believe is quite sizable. $500, that prize pool, I think?
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
I think we should have a video to show you all about that in just a moment. And once we're done with that, we'll get into the round of 16 Mappool showcase. But it's our pleasure to announce the Content Creation Showdown.
SSOT presents the Content Creation Showdown, or CCS for short.
Calling all content creators. It's time for you to rise up to the challenge. Create videos based around SSOT and let your creativity shine.
Whether it's vlogs, stories, recaps, or discussions, your canvas is limitless. Upload your masterpiece to your YouTube channel with the tag #SSOT24 by the 31st of March 2359 UTC to enter in our competition.
But wait, there's more. At the end of March, the community and our judges will vote to decide on the videos that captured everyone's hearts.
The rest of that information is cool and all, but OSU is boring and we need your help. So, I'll be contributing $500 to the prize pool of this creator competition just to make things interesting and to spice things up.
And thanks to Ed's help, we'll be giving away that $500 to the winning videos. So, make sure to use every tool you have. Don't hold any cards back and prepare those creative minds of yours to make sure you get that win.
Will you seize the opportunity and become the next legend in the world of SSOT? The stage is set. Spotlight is yours. Let the showdown begin.
Welcome to SSOT. Beyond every beat. Visit ssot.gg/content.
All right. And that is the Content Creation Showdown. So make sure to get those entries submitted again by March 31st at 2359 UTC in order to enter the competition. Miles, any thoughts? I mean, we've had some similar competitions like this in the past for OS, but not a ton. And I think probably the first one just directly related to a tournament, right?
Yeah, definitely the first one directly related to a tournament. And I mean, we've seen some content creation centered around tournaments, mostly in the form of, I think, Ed for the roundtable. And then otherwise we'd see some come out for OWC, but it's really rare to see this happen for a community tournament. And I think the Content Creation Showdown is going to be a great opportunity to maybe see some people try to take that step into some regular tournament content. And I'm really excited to see what some people produce for this.
Yeah, same here. And with the cash prize pool of $500, I think we're going to be able to see some good entries. So good luck to all the content creators out there. And with that, we can transition into the round of 16 Mappool showcase. Again, round of 16 is going to be a double elim bracket. So there will be a loser's bracket. If you lose here, you do get a second chance in the tournament. And we're going to start off the round of 16 with the Nomad 1 here. We should be just about ready to switch over to OS content. And yep, it is on the screen now. Shonen Ripples by Yu Tokiwa. Mapped by Rihanna.
Now, one thing I'd like to mention is basically how we're balancing the 1 to 4 slot. So just in case you're just tuning into the stream, the format of this tournament is for a 1 slot, you only have 1 player in for the map. And then subsequently, you'll have 2 for the 2 slot, 3 for the 3 slot, and 4 for the 4 slot. So that means we're able to do some funny things with the balancing where the Nomad 1, because it's a 1 slot, only your best player has to go in for that. So we're able to make that slot harder than, say, we do for a 3 or a 4 slot because we balance that to be played by 4 players on a team. And you're really going to notice that, I think, as you go through the map pools, especially starting with this round of 16.
Yep, and without any further ado, let's get into the Nomad 1 for round of 16. This map, Shonen Ripples by Yu Tokiwa. This is a really difficult Nomad 1 for, honestly, any sort of map pool. It is 7.5 stars, 210 BPM. And yeah, it's AR 9.7, but the aim in this is really awkward. It is an extremely awkward map with lots of wide angle jumps, lots of anti-aim, and a couple of bursts here and there. The 210 BPM bursts in this are not the main point of difficulty, though.
Not quite the Arls map of Shonen Ripples, but still very difficult aim in this map. You're going to see it, I think, mostly come during the key eyes, but the downtime and the bridge sections in this song are also going to be represented with some difficult jumps as well, so definitely not free. So Dio, as we're on one of the longest maps of the pool, would you like to take some more time to explain, I guess, some of our balancing decisions as well? I think I touched on a lot of it, but there might be some more to add.
Yeah, I mean, Miles talked about the format and how that changes how we want to balance things. This round of 16, we decided to balance the 4-slot maps around a 7-star map pool difficulty, and the 1-slot maps, of course, as you see here, around like a 7.7 star map pool difficulty. This is only 7.5 stars, but the awkward aim makes this more difficult than the star rating would suggest. The other things that happen with these pools is because the number of players on each map increases with the mods counter, and this is a 4v4 max team size tournament, the format that you're actually going to get for all the pools in this tournament is 4 no mod, 4 hidden, 4 hard rock, and 4 DT, and 4 free mod.
4 tiebreakers.
So, 4 tiebreakers. No, 4 free mod. So you're going to have a full map pool from the very start in this tournament. Not only that, there's going to be a lot of variance to where the maps are placed from round to round. You know, if we had aim in Nomad 1 every single round, it'd be one player playing aim on Nomad for every team each round. And that would be not only really boring, but pretty bad balancing. There are some teams who would do better if aim was in a 4-slot. There are some teams who would do better with it in a 1-slot. There are some teams who have speed specialists or reading specialists, and some teams where everyone can be good at particular things for that team. And so we tried to balance putting aim maps in different numbered slots. So for example, aim is in the Nomad 1 slot here. In other mod pools, it's going to be in different slots, right? So you might not see aim in the 1 slot as you usually would in tournaments, and that's specifically because the format dictates the number of players per map.
And you did mention that the pool is really big for round of 16 because of the way it's formatted with 1 to 4 in each mod pool, but in a way that could also make the pool smaller for some players. Like, say for example, you know you're going to have one player play one map because that's his skill set. You might not need to practice that. Say if you're more of a fill-oriented player, you might dedicate yourself to mostly practicing those 3 and 4 slots, which will actually make the pool smaller than your typical round of 16 pool. So there's really a lot of ways to go about this format, and that's what I think makes it so interesting.
Yeah, and one other thing is that, of course, you know, round of 16, we're starting off relatively easy with 7 stars as the benchmark for difficulty for our 4 slots. Well, the Nomad 1 is more equivalent to like a 7.5, 7.6, 7.7 star pool. So as we get later and later into the tournament and the pool starts scaling up in difficulty, not only are the 4 slots going to scale, but the 1 slots will scale alongside them, and that difference in star rating is not going to go away. You're going to get some extremely hard maps in the latest stages of the tournament, particularly because you can just put one of the best players on your team on each of those 1 slots. And so it is effectively pooling for 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, and 4v4 all at the same time in the same round. So balancing that difficulty has been a unique challenge, but a really fun way of doing the map pools for this tournament.
Yeah, like, for difficulty balancing, it's kind of like a cheat code, actually, because if you look at a map and you say, wait, this is a little bit too difficult for a 4 slot, you just move it up to a 3 or a 2 slot, or even a 1 slot. Like, we're balancing grand finals for, like, MREC versus, like, Rectagon on a map or something, like...
Yeah.
And that's going to enable us to put some really interesting maps in those later stages.
Yeah. That's it for the Nomad 1. You might have noticed if you hung around in the server at all that we have a couple of custom mappers in this tournament. And this next map is going to be our first custom map of the tournament. We did not put any in qualifiers. because we want to be able to stream matches with those custom maps in them. So our first custom map of the tournament is going to be this No Mod 2, Dance with Night Sky by Hyun, the Midnight Lounge difficulty map by Scooby for SSOT.
This map is quite interesting. You don't really expect your No Mod 2 to be a CS6 alt map, but here we have it in SSOT, round of 16, No Mod 2. Really interesting map. Gonna wait a second before we could get it on stream. And it looks like we've got it. Dance with Night Sky, a really interesting song that supports a really interesting map to go aside it.
Yeah, this is 130 BPM, CS 6.1, AR 9.3, like aim control rhythm alt. One of the things that we did before we started this tournament, because there were a lot of custom mappers that were wanting to map for this tournament, and therefore a lot of custom maps for this tournament. And that presents a unique challenge when the pool format has to change from round to round in order to make the tournament format itself not feel boring to the players, and in order to not repeat skill sets between rounds in the same mods. And there's very unique balancing challenges for the map pools in this tournament. And so one of the things that we ended up doing was prescribing some slots beforehand throughout the map pools and allowing custom mappers to pick what slots they wanted to map for based on what we had prescribed for those slots months in advance of the tournament actually starting. So all of the custom maps that you see in this tournament were what the mapper really wanted to map for themselves. And this is what Scooby came up with for high circle size aim control alt. It's definitely high circle size. No CS5 here. We've got CS6 in the No Mod pool, and I'm happy about that because, yeah, high circle size is not CS5, guys.
Yep, throwing a little bit of shade at MCA there. Can't be seeing some CS5 maps be considered as precision. Gotta be at least 6 or above. But yeah, I didn't understand that decision at the beginning of this map pooling process, Dio, but when you put it like that, it makes a lot more sense because, like, it's really difficult. If you're giving a mapper a map slot, they a lot of the time assume it's going to be like in a traditional slot format. But when you prescribe it early on, like before the poolers even know what's going to be around that map in terms of balancing, then it gives the mappers the freedom to really map what they want. And that's something that ended up really well for this map. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, this map's awesome. This map is also a map that looks really easy when you're watching a replay, and then you go to play the map and you're like, why am I dropping 150k on this? Like, this looks so easy. Why is Spicy making this look like it's so simple? But the patterns in this are actually really, really difficult, and I think a lot of people will actually struggle to get consistently high scores on a map like this.
Definitely. I mean, you saw that rhythm alt section. Like, you have to have very good finger control to be able to be consistent on that type of map.
All right. That's going to bring us into our No Mod 3, which is, well, it can't really be alt because we just had an alt map in the No Mod pool. So we're throwing a speed map in here instead. It's Everything Will Freeze by Undead Corporation, the S-Joy map set of this one. Not going to be the Ikoro set this time around, but another one of the 2 sets of this song that were released at about the same time and earned both the admiration and ire of a lot of players at once when they came out.
And you know, the Ikoro one really took off, and some people view this one as kind of the little brother set to the Ikoro set, but this one, it still offers a very intuitive speed challenge, I think, especially for a round of 16 pool. This is actually replacing another map at the last minute. I think we had the Cube map of Yorogi Vanashi in there before that. So if you want to know what we were looking for this slot, it's just, you know,
it's
low 7-star speed, no strings attached to this one.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move into that No Mod 3. This is a pretty well-known map. A lot of people either have scores on this or have played it at some point before, very similar to the Ikoro set of this as well. So I think a lot of people will be pretty comfortable playing this as well. You know, 7.3 stars or so, but only OD 8.8, not quite OD 9 on this map. Accuracy not quite as high of a challenge, and the overall star rating not so high that it becomes a little bit inaccessible. This is lower star rating than the No Mod 1, in fact. So much more accessible for most players, at least if you're confident in speed.
In a world where speed inflates the star rating the quickest, we have a speed map that's somehow a lower star rating than an aim map. I think that's very rare for map pools these days. Yeah, this one also definitively has much shorter bursts than I think every difficulty that is like high star rating at all on the Ikoro set. So gonna be really testing that burst speed over that stamina that you really know everything will freeze for. The one funny thing that I want to point out is it did have the squares at the beginning just like the Ikoro set does. So if you really hate squares, then you might not like this map either, but still, I think these ones are a little less mental blockable, in my opinion.
Yeah, not quite as rough on the squares for this map, that's for sure. Not as high on the spacing as Time Freeze or any of the other diffs on that set. So I think players will be a little bit more comfortable with this. This is also our first 3v3 map, so again, with the map itself being lower star rating, it's to accommodate the fact that you actually have to put 3 players in for this. Our 3v3 maps and 4v4 maps were balanced about the same. 2v2 we wanted to be significantly harder than that, and 1v1 significantly harder than that. So if you're looking for some of the easier maps in the pool overall to play for your team, you're looking at the 3-4 slots in these pools.
And I think because of that, you have some funny, I think, difficulty discrepancies in these pool showcases
Yeah.
where we're going from 4 to 1s, and I think we actually have maybe one of the most hilarious ones in the
It's really funny.
coming up.
Yeah.
The Nomad 4 to hidden 1 transition is
It's going to be really funny.
It's something. You're going to love it. Or you might hate it. We don't know.
Who knows, yeah. For now, just waiting on this one to finish out. This is, again, a map, I think, a very straightforward map as well. The aim on this, not too difficult. The bursts and streams are really the main point of pain for anyone trying to play this map, as well as some flow aim, and there's another square near the end of the map. So, yeah, if you're not consistent on the aim and you have other speed players on your team who are a little bit stronger in that area than you, maybe consider letting them play this one instead, especially for some of those higher seeded teams with lots of really solid speed and consistency players. Making sure that you don't get gapped by the aim on this map might be more important than being able to get good accuracy on the pick.
Now into the very intense ending section. Those bursts into the kick sliders, your stamina is going to be draining on that if you aren't really a seasoned speed player. Oh, the triangles at the end as well. Very iconic patterns. I think the most iconic pattern at the end of this map are those triangles. I remember Happy Stick choking on those back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for Nomad 3.
Yeah, thanks to Din for the replay on that one, and thanks as well to the other replayers for our first 2 maps. I want to just go ahead and check on those real quick. Thanks to Spicy for the Nomad 2 replay and the Nomad 1 replay, actually. Both those replays from him. And now we're going to get yet another different skill set in the Nomad pool. It's going to be low approach rate reading here for the Nomad for Yugure One Room by 40MP featuring Chano, the expert difficulty on this set. AR8 reading and OD9 on this map. Definitely a combo dense map, but on Nomad, I think a lot more playable than with Hidden for a large portion of the player base. So good luck to everyone trying to fill a 4-player roster for this map, as this is going to be the first one where you are required to have a full 4 players from your team come in for the map. We should be able to get that shown on stream in just a moment here. And there we go. Nomad 4.
Replay by Kon Kinakon. And yeah, this is kind of breaking some boundaries. I think way back during the peak of slot pooling, when every single Hidden 2 was an awkward aim map, no one really ever thought of moving reading, or at least this type of awkward aim reading, into the Nomad pool. And even now you rarely see it, so really cool to see a map like this come into the Nomad pool.
Yeah, you make a good point. This is something that you really wouldn't see a lot in Nomad back when slot pooling was just the meta and you really only had low AR hidden, anti-mod, free mod for low AR map pool. But something like this, some people really cannot play this sort of map with hidden on because awkward aim and low AR go together really well in terms of increasing the difficulty and making it far harder to have perfect cursor placement on a lot of patterns like squares and wide angle jumps and all that sort of stuff. So being able to remove that hidden mod and just play the lower approach rate, I think will benefit some players in particular more than others, but definitely be helpful for a map like this.
I'm one of those players. I mean, Look at my locals of Maze of Vapor. You've got a Nomad FC followed by a graveyard of 350k hidden scores. So shout out to all of my people who can aim but can't necessarily do dense aim with hidden. This is a map for you.
Yeah, definitely still some reading strain on this. I mean, you've got jump patterns kind of tied in amongst themselves in this map, so there is still some low AR reading to this map as well. We didn't want this to just be full on, very easy aim map with no reading whatsoever. That's why it is still in the 6-star range. It is 220 BPM. It's very high density because of that. So these jump patterns that do find the notes kind of overlapping a little bit in terms of the object placement. Not perfect stacks, but lots of patterns kind of overlapping themselves due to just it being 220 BPM. You're going to have some reading strain with that, but not as much as on hidden for sure.
Definitely an underrated aspect of, I guess, interpreting density. I mean, like, if you have a 240 BPM map on AR9, sometimes it could feel more dense than some of your lower BPM AR8 maps. So just something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Right. So, now, Miles, you were talking up this transition from Nomad 4 to Hidden 1. So why don't you do the honors introducing this one? I mean, I picked this map, but I just kind of found this randomly. So this is as good as anyone's.
Yep. So we have our Nomad 4 low AR hidden aim, or low AR Nomad aim. Now we're going into a 1 slot with a very difficult hidden aim map that is AR7. So you thought the Nomad 4 had difficult reading. You are going to want to stay away from this map with a 10-foot pole. Do not touch it. Let the best reading player on your team touch it. This one is a shout out to my friend Yokespy. Yeah,
let's get into that low AR hidden map. Animal by Mikomet, Panda Heroes Extra. This is AR7 reading on hidden. I think this is also a Konkon Kinikon replay. And we did not get a full combo for this one. You might have noticed if you saw the score screen there. There's a reason for that. This is significantly harder than the Nomad low AR map that you just saw. Despite this map being lower star rating, it is way harder to read.
Yeah, I mean, approach rate 7. At that point, like, your average tournament all-rounder is probably not going to be able to read much lower than 8. So this one is really calling out to all of the reading specialists who are in the tournament. This is a map for you, one where you can shine alone on.
Yeah, we did have AR7 in the qualifiers pool, but it was a pretty straightforward map. It was lower star rating than this even. It was CS6 as well. It was Sozo Forest. Delis' Insane diff on that set. So there is some kind of ties to the qualifier pool with this map, but this is higher BPM. This is higher object density. It is just far more difficult overall with the types of patterns in this map. I mean, a lot of Sozo Forest you can even not necessarily call distance stacked, but uses that type of patterning in order to represent spacing and timing in the map. So there's way more cues in that map as to the timing of notes, let's put it that way.
And also to play into some stereotypes, this is AR7 and the map is nearly 6 stars. If you're at all familiar with tournament pooling or just playing tournaments at all, you know the low AR hidden usually going to be one of the lowest star ratings in the pool. Even up in the mid 7-star levels of map pools, you still don't see your AR8 hidden kissing 6 stars. And this one's already almost up there for the hidden one.
Yeah, it's also AR7, so that's, you know, AR7 6-star is very hard to find. AR7 not quite 6-star, still pretty out there, but a little bit more abundant, that's for sure.
Still a very good replay for Konkon Kinikon. Oh, that miss.
And not too much more to say about this one. Those are your two reading picks in the Nomad and Hidden pool. And those are going to be your dedicated low AR picks, of course. If there is a low AR map in Hard Rock or DT or Free Mod, you can take mods on it, or it's just not low AR because of the mod applied. So that's going to be your two dedicated low AR picks for this pool. And now, if you've been paying attention to the map pool showcase, you might have noticed that there has not yet been a dedicated tech map in the pool. This one's not quite dedicated purely to tech, but it does touch that skill set quite a bit. It's the speed tech pick in Hidden for the Hidden 2 this time around, and it is Dynamite by Usao, Camelia's Macho TNT remix. Let's get into the map for this one, because this is A, pretty long. It's 4 minutes. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it while we're in the map, and B, an absolute banger and really, really tough map to go through.
You call this speed tech. I think I'd like to prefer another term that I'd like to call mech tech.
Speed tech is a subset of mech tech, Miles. I will not be having it.
Okay, fine. You can have it that way, Dio, but this map is mechanically intensive.
It is.
And it is also a tech map. So you can call it mech tech, you can call it speed tech. Either way, it's going to be touching on some of that tech skill set that we don't really have in the skill set so far. At 222 BPM, you have some short bursts mixed in there, some difficult kick slider aim as well. But it comes back to this type of song. You can't really have this type of song and not have it be tech in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, this is a skill set that I think kind of loses representation in a lot of map pools due to the way slots are structured and the way that pools tend to favor certain representations of different skill sets among them. For example, in a normal slot pooling type of pool, you would have 3 hidden, 3 hard rock, 3 free mod, and you would have 4 double times and 6 no mods. Well, you're probably putting your extra speed map in the no mod pool, and even then, because it's all the same team size, you want your speed players to be relatively comfortable on that map, and so you're probably picking something that's mostly burst, mostly streams, not a lot of aim, not a lot of tech or finger control. And so this type of skill set doesn't really see representation until you go to maybe high star rating 1v1 tournaments where you get 4 hidden and 4 hard rock in lieu of a free mod pool altogether. Sometimes those tournaments will have speed tech maps like this in them, or fast mech tech for Miles. I don't know if I prefer that over speed tech personally, but this type of thing just isn't seen a lot in map pools, and I think that's kind of a shame because there's a lot of really good, very fun maps in this game that represent this type of skill set, and we'll be able to pool that skill set more in this tournament than in others because of the unique format of the tournament itself.
But we're about to reach one of the big breakpoints of this map. Really, in the center of the map, this is a really devious pattern coming up. These 1/3 slider streams right here. Back when I first saw this map in Hippo Cup 2020, that pattern was nigh unhittable, but I think if you flow it properly, you should be able to hit it.
That's just a 1/3 pattern, Miles. I don't see the big deal personally.
If you miss it, we might be sending you to the skill issue school, but you still got a weekend of matches to go off of.
And luckily, you only have to have 2 maps anyway, so only 2 people on your team rather than 4 have to make sure that they're relatively good on the 1/3 patterns in the middle of the map and the rest of this really difficult map overall. I mean, this is only 7.02 stars, but I would call this pretty much interchangeable with the hidden one in this pool. They're both very difficult.
I remember when I saw you put this in, I thought you were crazy because everywhere else I've seen this pool to be in like, a 7.3, a 7.4 star pool, and we're putting it in this pool balanced around 7 stars, and that was when I started to really start to swallow the pill of the format of the tournament. Where, okay, we're going to be having Malashevsky and Emrek play this map.
Right. So you want to pool maps that the best players on the team can still thrive on, even if it is 2v2.
Yeah. Also, this is just such a banger. Oh yeah, 1/3 triangle right here. Enjoy that. I find that triangle to be harder than the slider scream that I mentioned earlier.
I think a bunch of Din for this replay as well. I think a lot of people don't really think of Din as a hidden player or necessarily hidden tech player, but really solid player all around and has been a big help with replays for the map pools so far.
These showcases would not be possible without our dedicated test players and replayers. We appreciate all the hard work they've done so far and are continuing to do so as we continue to finish some of these map pools.
All right. We're going to move on to the next map in the hidden pool. We have 2 more remaining, the hidden 3 and hidden 4. Hidden 3 for this pool is our second custom map of the pool. It is Scary Point by Hakushi Hasegawa, mapped by Revo for the round of 16 here. This is your flow aim alt hidden pick in this pool. It's a 165 BPM AR 9.4 map and really tricky. Despite being mostly flow aim, it is still pretty out there in terms of a lot of the patterning, kind of reminiscent of that Nomad 2 we saw earlier. So let's get into it and check out the custom map.
You say flow aim, but one point of difficulty I'd like to emphasize on this is the variable spacing in a lot of these alt patterns. It's not consistent flow aim. You've got a lot of spacing changes that'll catch you off guard if you aren't prepared for them.
You can already see a lot of the contrast in this map between itself and the Nomad 2. You still have a lot of the wiggles. You still have some of the rhythm changes in this map, similar to the Nomad 2 we saw earlier. But a lot of this, of course, the lower circle size, it's going to be more comfortable for more players because of that. But the higher BPM and the focus more so on, as Miles said, the variable spacing flow aim, but flow aim nonetheless in this map.
And yeah, you have a lot of those little micro adjustments you have to do, those stop and go sort of patterns with the rhythm changes. It's just a tricky map, if I'm being honest with you.
Believe it or not, this map is only 6.3 stars somehow. I don't know how a map that looks this hard is only 6.3 stars, but this definitely plays more like something that belongs in a 7.2, 7.3 star hidden pool.
Definitely one thing that star rating will never ever be able to take into account for is a lot of these like micro adjustments you have to do, a lot of these cuts, something that you can't really honestly put into a formula for star rating. So I think something like this forever will be understarred, but still a very difficult map to be in a free spot. Still very satisfying to hit some of these patterns. Type of map that I would love to be a player practicing.
And that is going to be it for the Hidden 3. Again, thanks to Din for yet another replay on this map. And that will bring us into the very last map in the Hidden Pool and our third custom of the round of 16. It's Beat Eat Nest by Raito, mapped by Devious Panda for the SSOT round of 16. This is not what you expect when you ask Devious Panda for a custom map. Devious Panda actually, from talking to him a lot, doesn't enjoy mapping the super high star rating finger control rhythm maps a lot anymore, and has moved back into a lot more 6-star mapping, and especially just kind of trying out different styles. And this is going to be your slightly awkward aim consistency map in the Hidden Pool. I think this ended up being a lot more awkward than aim consistency, but I think it still fits in the pool as we've adjusted the non-customs to make this fit with the rest of the pool.
Yeah, and for example, you look at something like that Nomad 1 being a very difficult aim consistency map. You have this one being on the lower end of star rating. It's going to accommodate for more players on this map, being in a 4 slot. So definitely going to be something that's a lot more accessible, I think, when compared to the Nomad 1. Replay done by Verterix as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this one is still tough though. Lots of finger control and lots of reading. A little. Is that Kirby?
That's Seal.
That's a Seal. That's a Seal. Yeah, sorry. No, it's Verterix. Of course, it's a Seal.
Seal Champ.
Seal Champ. Yeah, a lot of finger control, a lot of slider aim, a lot of awkward triples where you have to flow the triples on this map, and those, again, micro changes in cursor movement, just like on the Hidden 3, are really, really tricky, both because of Hidden and because of the fact this map is AR9 flat. So really high object density on this one for the BPM.
AR9 representation in map pools on aim picks. Bring me back to those days. That's what this map is doing.
Yeah, we're here. We're here, Miles.
AR9 aim. I'm so
AR9
happy.
aim.
I don't have to play AR9 gimmick maps anymore.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I might, just maybe later on in the tournament, but AR9 aim, enjoy it while it lasts.
We gotta have some AR9 aim in the pools. This is just, it's something your older players will be very familiar with. If you haven't played a lot of maps like this recently, this one is going to be a significant challenge for you. I think this map, more so than a lot of the other 4 slots in this pool, is really dependent on how comfortable you are with the approach rate, with the mod, with the finger control, with the overall consistency in this map. I mean, this ended up being more of like a pseudo tiebreaker sort of pick rather than just aim consistency with how much goes on in this map.
Absolutely. It's a lot put into one. And you know, at 2 minutes and 38 seconds, it's pretty difficult to do that a lot of the time, but Devious Panda getting it done for this custom.
We're going to see another pretty funny gap between the 4 slot and 1 slot coming up, by the way. Hidden 4, of course, is played 4v4, and so is meant to be the easiest map in the Hidden pool. Hard Rock 1 coming up next is, of course, only played by 1 player from each team, and so meant to be the hardest map in the Hard Rock pool. And I think the map we have delivers on that, and you're going to see a pretty stark difference in patterning and how the map looks between this and the Hard Rock 1, that's for sure. But to finish out this map, more of the back and forth jumps, more of the flow triples and excel streams in this map, more of the 3-4 sliders into doubles kick slider jumps. I mean, again, there's just so much going on in this map that if you're not comfortable with the density and reading this type of stuff, even if you have the aim for it, it's still going to be tough.
Lots of small cuts as well put in there between some of the streams. Really easy to trip yourself up on. Even for some of your most experienced hidden players, a lot of time you just make that little oversight, have a little miss snap, miss a note at the end of the stream. Oh yeah, like that expansion is brutal.
Yeah,
on
that one.
9.
I hit that once on sight read and then never hit it again. I think it's just that kind of pattern. But that's going to do it for the Hidden 4. Thank you so much to Devious Panda for the custom map for this pool. And thank you, of course, to Verterix for the replay on that one as well. I've been hyping up the Hard Rock 1 and the difficulty increase between Hidden 4 and Hard Rock 1, as is planned, going from a 4 slot to a 1 slot with the change in format from 4v4 to 1v1. This map is going to be True Novel by Yunosuke featuring Okaki, Nuge and Wheat's fictional... I can't see the full difficulty name. Fictional reality. Thank you. The sheet was not fully expanded for it. It's tech hard rock. If you know Nude, if you know Wheat, you know they love to stuff like this, and this is yet another one of their really, really tricky tech collab maps. Kind of the one that pushed Nude into the spotlight for tech mappers as of the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, Nuge and Wheat, they've become the type of duo where you see those two names together and you can almost expect to see what type of map they're going to put out, because they have just really mastered this kind of style of slider tech. And you're seeing it more and more in map pools. They're becoming the next Halgo, I think.
Yeah, that's the exact comparison you would make, right? Is we had the Rail Lazy era, we had the Halgo era. We're starting to see like the Nuge era, actually. And this is kind of the map that started it all. This was one of the first tech maps from Nuge that really became popular and got used in a couple of tournaments when it was released in, I want to say late 2022 was when they made this collab. This map on Hard Rock is insanely difficult. This is only 6.7 stars, but I think is right up there with the No Mod 1 and the Hidden 1 in terms of difficulty.
Absolutely. This takes a very, very specific skill set to be able to play. You have to be able to play these very difficult streams that expand. Lots of variable spacing in them streams as well. And you also have to be able to hit those massive sliders. Like, look at these sliders.
Yeah, this is the successor to Wake Up While Sleeping Hard Rock, right?
Yeah,
if you were good at Wake Up While Sleeping Hard Rock in the qualifiers pool, this is your map.
And hence, it is in a 1 slot. I think even on some of your best players, the accuracy is going to really be struggling on this. That's just something that I think comes inherently with having this type of map in the Hard Rock pool. Like, hitting the slider ends on some of these sliders is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, good luck to the players on this one. This is just a really tricky pick, especially to some of the lower seeded teams. If you don't have a really good Hard Rock tech player, you're going to suffer on this map for sure. So this is, I think, a potential ban for a lot of teams. I think this is straight up one of the hardest maps in the pool, if not the hardest map in the pool. It's extremely difficult.
Yeah, and looking forward, like, even compared to some of the next one slots, like, this type of skill set, you're rarely going to find in a player.
Not a lot more to say about this. If you were missing some of the tech in No Mod, hopefully the hidden and hard rock pools have scratched that itch for you. We will still be getting a little bit more of technical sorts of maps in the DT and free mod pool as well, but not the straight up slider tech that you saw in the hidden and hard rock pools. So hopefully for you tech players out there, these maps will scratch that itch, and if that's not enough, you can go in for stuff like the No Mod 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. This format leaves a lot of itches to be scratched, Dio. You know, right now our 2 tech picks are in the 1 and the 2 slot. Like, those are pretty difficult maps, all things considered, and that's something that we keep in mind going into future pools. Put some more accessible maps in the tech picks later, and then, you know, we end up eventually having something for everyone by the end of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And without any further ado, we'll get into the Hard Rock 2. Another one of the more difficult maps in the Hard Rock pool. It's going to be True Love by Jun featuring Shanita, the Bazby set of this map. It's flow aim streams for this map set. If you've been keeping track, again, we haven't had a stream map yet, and this is your quote-unquote No Mod 2 in the pool. Full-on stream aim and flow aim streams. Only 1 minute and 34 seconds, but 7.1 stars. CS 5.5 with Hard Rock as well. And the flow on these is more difficult, I think, than first meets the eye.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love putting a map like this in the Hard Rock pool. You know, it's one of the main farm skill sets in the game, being able to play flow aim on Hard Rock, yet you rarely see it represented in map pools outside of, say, the top level of 1v1. So
yeah, having
something here for, I think, a pretty accessible map for a 2 slot, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how players do on this. Also, catchy song.
Very catchy song. And this is really your kind of quote-unquote farm stream map in the pool, right? Like, this is still somewhat tricky. There's still some high spacing stuff. There's still a lot of jumps between the triples and bursts in this map. But if you can play Hard Rock streams and bursts, you're going to be pretty comfortable on this map. It's higher star rating to compensate, but of course, still relatively difficult with Hard Rock in general and high CS as a rule being a little underweighted in star rating.
Yeah, also definitely a map I want to shout out all of my players who suffer from nerves. You might not have a great time on this map because the spacing on this is so massive that if your cursor falls off, it's going to be very easy to note lock. Despite the OD10 from Hard Rock, you don't want to fall off of these streams, otherwise your accuracy is going to go straight into the dumpster.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks a bunch of Rykick for the replay on that map. And now we're going to get another skill set we haven't seen at all since No Mod 1. It's aim consistency for the Hard Rock 3. And this is a map that I think is divisive, but does exactly what we want it to do. It's ID by Lisa, mapped by Azunyan. This is like Kirigiri mapping, basically. But I think a little more representative. It's full send aim consistency on Hard Rock for this map.
Mm-hmm. This is like 2021 slot pooling No Mod 1 type deal. Like,
yeah,
we've got
actually,
our anime, our aim, and you've got nothing else to worry about in this map. And it starts out right off the bat with it.
Yeah, this is 7.12 stars, so about the exact same star rating as the Hard Rock 2. A little lower CS, it's CS 5.2, and a little higher BPM as well, 195 BPM, but really, really consistent aim strain in this map. You do definitely have really big spikes in the KIs in this map, but not as huge as you might see in a lot of other hard rock aim picks, as even the parts outside the key eyes are pretty difficult in this one.
But it is that very comfortable type of aim that a lot of players feel very comfortable on. So definitely something that I think will be a very common pick for some of the lower seeded teams, because I think anyone who's relatively high ranked has trained on this skill set to some extent.
Unfortunate miss there for Konkon Kinikon. I think that's his only miss on this map, actually. Kinikon is also the player who did our low AR reading replays, by the way. This guy's pretty good at a variety of things, it turns out. Not just the low AR reading, really good hard rock game player as well.
Konkon's been a mainstay on OWC Japan for so long for a reason now. Like, this guy is able to play so many things. I feel like he can play just about anything except for speed, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Just really solid, really consistent. Once again, this is in the 3 slot. We were targeting about 7 stars for the 4 slots in this pool, so 7.12 stars on a hard rock aim consistency like map like this in a 3 slot is about right in terms of the star rating. I do think, if anything, we could have probably gone harder with the hard rock 2 in this pool. But giving the stream players something that's both accessible and a little tricky with some of the aim strain in that map at the same time, I think is still a pretty good shout for the Hard Rock 2 in this pool. And this Hard Rock 3, of course, is... if you play aim, you're going to be really good on this, and I think most aim players are going to be happy with this sort of map.
Yeah.
This is not the sort of thing that we would get from AIM customs, that's for sure. So sprinkling in some maps like this in the slots where we don't have customs is kind of a necessity in pooling like this.
But in turn, it helps us really be able to make something for everyone in these map pools. And I think we truly did have something for everyone in this map pool. Although we are only about halfway through it. I think this is the exact halfway point, actually. At least visually on our map pooling sheet.
Yeah, somewhere around halfway. There's 21 maps, and we're on number 11. So midway through this map is exactly halfway through the showcase, actually. And I have one more Hard Rock map, and then yet another very jarring change from Hard Rock 4 to DT1 as we swap pools again and go from what should be the easiest map in the Hard Rock pool, and honestly probably the easiest map in the pool overall, I think, for this Hard Rock 4, to what should be the hardest map in the DT pool.
Yeah, this Hard Rock 4 was what was making me go insane when I saw Dio put Dynamite as Hidden 2, because I was like, wow, this Hard Rock 4 is so unbelievably easy, and this Hidden 2 is so unbelievably difficult for this pool.
Yep.
But with how the format is, it does make sense. So I think we're going to very quickly head on over to that Hard Rock 4 now.
Yeah, this Hard Rock 4 is the precision pick in the Hard Rock pool. If you've been keeping track, we've had 5.2, 5.5, and 5.2. It's time for some 6.5. We've got a classic map here, Lika by Crispy Joybox, mapped by Minakami Yuki. Not the Frey set, but another one of these classic sets of Lika. And this is about 6.75 stars. So mostly aim, CS 6.5, below 7 stars in the 4 slot.
Very basic in terms of precision. There's a little bit of pattern aim in the chorus, lots of linear jumps as well that can really catch people off. But then other than that, I'm pretty sure most Hard Rock players are going to have a good time on this map. It really, I think, comes down to a nerve check, being honest, but this is the type of thing I'm good at.
Yeah, and of course, you know, I saw some chatters earlier talking about, you know, hey, if we have AR7 hidden, when are we getting CS8 Hard Rock? In the 4 slot, CS8 might be a little crazy, but in a 1 or 2 slot, maybe in a future pool, you can look forward to some higher circle size as well in the Hard Rock pool.
Yeah, it's time for Agony Hard Rock. Circle size 10, anybody?
I'd be down, but
finals?
it's a little that's an interesting suggestion. Put it that way.
Yeah, we'll throw it on the sheet after this.
It's not even the slot; it's on the sheet.
Yeah.
All
right, now into the Ki that I was mentioning earlier. Linear jump start now. with some pattern aim as well, actually. I'm mistaken, the linear jump is the second half of this ki. Got some squares and stars at this point in it.
This is just a classic map, right? It's pattern aim, it's wide angle jumps, it's polygonal stuff, it's high spacing normal aim as well. And for precision players at this star rating, I think it's going to feel really good for a lot of people. And with how simple the map is and the rhythms are in this map, I think is a very accessible pick for lots and lots of people in this pool. Previous 4 slots have been AR8 and AR9 flat with really high density on both of them. So changing that up with this map and making something that's a little more comfortable the easiest pick in the mod pool was the goal with this map, really.
Mm-hmm. Teams who want to field 4 players on their roster but aren't necessarily gimmick-focused teams are definitely going to look forward to this as a pick. And the teams who don't probably will think about banning it because, you know, it's a 4 slot.
Yep. All right. And yet another jarring transition from a 4 slot and probably the most accessible map in the pool to a very tough DT1. It is Crush by Pendulum, mapped by Mao, the collab extra diff. AR 10.3, OD 10.2, drum and bass DT aim in the DT1 slot. This is 7.6 stars after DT and 261 BPM to start us off in the DT pool.
Yep, 1 slot, baby. Difficulty spike, here we come. But yeah, another classic map, if I'm being honest. Crush, I think this map is probably from like 2014. I think this one actually had a notorious glitch associated with it, right?
I don't remember that, actually. Fill me in.
Okay, well, there was a glitch where this map was like worth 10 times the PP. It was actually
Wait,
worth...
really?
People were getting 700s in like 2014 on this map.
That's hilarious.
And it was a crazy ass glitch.
That might be a different set, I think, because
probably.
It's a different set for sure. The map ID is too high.
Oh,
on
it's
this.
watercolor. It's watercolor. My mistake.
Yeah, watercolor is the one. I do remember that though. I do remember watercolor. Yeah, this one though, of course, DMB, DT aim, AR 10.3, high OD as well, OD 10.2. So you don't get any pass on the accuracy. Again, it's a 1 slot. Put in your best DT aim player and have them pop off on the map.
Definitely a speed player type of map. 261 BPM, DMB, aim, and bursts. Gonna be testing all of your real high mechanic skills on this map.
Other 1 slots in the pool so far have been normal aim in the no mod pool, awkward aim for sure, but still aim. The low AR reading in Hidden 1 and the tech Hard Rock 1. So getting something speedy, something high AR here was the goal with this. We could have swapped this, I think, with the DT2 that we have, but this does just a fine job of keeping the 1 slot variable between all the different mod pools as well. Just like the 4 slot, right? We want the 4 slots to be accessible but different. We want the 1 slots to be challenging but also different, so that you can't just put in one really good specialist for every 1 slot in this pool.
Yes, so many different possibilities for balancing with this type of pool format. Just one of the many ways we explore it throughout the tournament. And this is actually a crazy replay from Spicy. Very nice FC.
Yeah.
99.46%. What a score from him.
I mean, it's the Spicy special. He's a really good high AR DT player and goes for lots of number 1s on maps just like that. So exactly what he was hoping for, I think, when joining the replay team on this. Not quite a spicy map for the DT2. And actually, this DT pool, I think this DT pool is just slot pooled. Did we somehow slot pool the DT pool in a tournament like this? We slot pooled the DT pool somehow in a tournament like this.
Spoilers. That's spoilers. Say slot pooled it is spoilers. But yeah, we've got DT2.
So funny.
Nevermore, Panda Heroes Expert. This map is our 240 BPM stamina map of the map pool. And that's really the most you can say about it until you see it.
Yeah, AR 10.3, OD 9.8, 7.5 stars of 233 BPM streams and bursts. This one also with some finger control, just like the DT2 in qualifiers, but at that lower BPM. And of course, we felt comfortable putting this on higher approach rate as well, since you only need 2 players on it.
Definitely not just your average, like, stamina map, though. It's a Panda Hero map. Panda Hero maps tend to be a little bit unconventional. I think there's a lot of finger control strain as well in this map. As you can see with some of the transitions out of the bursts into some of the slider patterns. You can't just turn off your brain and start streaming 240.
Yeah, and this is, again, something that some of the patterns look a little easy on paper, but as Miles said, the transitions out of them and the other stuff going on in the map makes it definitely much harder than it looks initially. And of course, the actual stamina patterns in this, where you get tons of back-to-back 5-note bursts or long streams, are going to be really taxing for any player on the
Mm-hmm. And Din just had a speed player miss. Something that I think we're going to be seeing a lot on this type of map. Do put aim in my 240 BPM stream map.
Real.
Oh yeah, those bursts. Be careful for those. Are those 1/6?
Those are 1/6. Yeah, so those are 447, like 448 BPM.
Oh my
or
god.
348, excuse me, 348. But they are only 4 notes, so mash.
Yep.
And again, it's in the 2 slot, so we can say skill issue, just play the map better. And if you can't play those, then maybe you'll be a little bit more comfortable on the DT3, DT4 instead.
Mm-hmm. A very pleasant song. Thank you again to Din for this replay.
And now onto our DT3 for the round of 16 pool. Again, should be going down in difficulty as we go through, and that's the goal with this one as well. 7.3 stars. It's Felis Long Remix by Onoken, mapped by Sharp. Some AR8 270 BPM speed, and only OD7 on this map, so more forgiving on the accuracy, lower on the star rating, lower on the strain, but higher BPM for you DT players who might not be as comfortable on that higher approach rate.
The Sharp Classic. I mean, I think a lot of people associate Sharp as with a lot of his old style speed maps that honestly show up a lot in map pools. And this one is another one of those maps. Very high BPM. OD7, I think, is one of the very defining factors of these types of maps. Very easy to note lock on a lot of these patterns.
Easy to note lock, and also easy to miss aim if you're focusing too heavily on single tapping or too heavily on the triples. You'd have to keep that aim ready on a map like this, because yes, the speed strain is high on something like this, but that's not exactly an excuse for finding miss aims when the spacing is still relatively low, but very fast jumps in this map.
Mm-hmm. Once again, I feel like we've definitely been scratching the itch of classic maps in this pool so far. Like this alongside that GT1 after that Hard Rock 4. The second half of this map pool just full of classics.
And it's also alongside Everything Will Freeze in the speed pool. Like we've got Crush, Felis, and Everything Will Freeze for speed maps in this pool so far, which I think definitely puts enough speed in the pool and are all pretty classic maps as well. Alongside Nevermore, obviously, is the more dedicated stamina speed pickings.
Also the dedicated, more modern map in this pool at this rate. Except it's funny, we're actually going back further in time, I think, for the next map.
We are. We'll get there in a moment, but yeah, maybe some foreshadowing with what we talked about before. Having accidentally slot pooled the DT pool is very funny in a tournament where slot pooling just doesn't even apply because of the tournament format. And somehow we managed to do it anyway on this pool, but I think the DT pool ended up pretty well balanced because of it. We get some mechanics in the Hard Rock 4 slots, and we have 2 really low density maps in the Nomad 4 slot and Hidden 4 slot, or excuse me, high density maps with the low AR and AR9 in the Nomad and Hidden, respectively. And now we're going to be getting another AR8 DT map and an absolute classic with Fairy Tail main theme by Yasuhara Takanashi, the Kirby mixed difficulty of this map set on DT. This has a 50k beat map ID, actually, one of the oldest maps around and the oldest map in the pool. with Fellis coming in second in that regard. Relatively short map and very alt-focused at 165 BPM if you do the conversion from 330.
A quintessential DT4. I actually grinded this one for an FC quite a long time ago. This one is going to be, I think, very conventional when it comes to these like alt DT4 Kirby maps. It's like, you've seen a lot of these types of maps in tournament before, like things like Switched on Lotus and OWC, albeit that one is going to be infinitely harder than this one.
Yeah.
But this one is going to be scratching that itch for you DT alt players.
Yeah, and again, you have kind of hidden reading consistency with the AR9 hidden. You have low AR with the Nomad 4, you have CS 6.5 aim with the Hard Rock 4, and now you get some alt with the DT4. So again, trying to keep the 1s and 4 slots in particular varied from pool to pool, and between weeks as well. That part is harder, easier said than done, but also one of the goals that we had with this tournament. So look forward to that as well, to switching up those 4 slots between pools, between weeks, every single time. And stuff like this being really interesting to see in the 4 slot as well. I really like this map. This was a last-minute addition to the pool. We had another map in... I think it was a DT2 slot, actually, and we ended up shifting around the DT pool, moving... Oh, yep, Dip Spike coming up here.
I choked here at least 3 times going for my FC on this.
No choke for Silver, though. But yeah, we ended up shifting a custom forward in time, so you'll see what map would have been in the round of 16 DT pool later on in the tournament. But that was a last-minute addition, and I think works pretty well with the maps we already had in the DT pool there.
Absolutely, and now take this opportunity to explain another big jump in difficulty going back up to a 1 slot. We have our free mod 1. We have Aratanaru Ketsui. I choked on my spit while reading that.
Got it the second time.
Yep, and look at the mapper name. It's a Daramok map. If anyone knows who Daramok is, if you haven't, well then you're going to learn about the magic that is Daramok mapping right now.
Yeah, this is a very special pick. It is AR9 CS6 in the free mod pool. Now, free mod for this tournament is going to have varying mod requirements based on the team size for the maps, of course. With this being one slot, both players are forced to take a mod. You might think that this map is way easier on Hidden than on Hard Rock because of the circle size and the approach rate being CS6 AR9. This map is extremely hard to read. The overlapping patterns and rhythm changes in this map make it extremely difficult on Hidden. Even in comparison to Hard Rock, I think they're still roughly even, and you're going to have plenty of players who prefer playing this on CS 7.8 after Hard Rock. So if you were hoping for some CS 8 in the pool, here you are. Hopefully we'll see some players take Hard Rock on this one.
Mm-hmm. Wowie makes it look easy on Hidden, but you look at how he just cheesed that part. I'm sure a lot of players are also going to consider doing that because this map is absolutely brutal, and that part is near the middle of the map where it really matters most for you to be holding on to combos. So definitely, I think that part in particular is going to be the reason why a lot of players take Hard Rock, but I think otherwise it's going to be generally slightly Hidden favored at the very least. But then you also have sections like this.
Yeah, which like, how are you reading this with Hidden, right?
Yeah, you have Wowie. Like, Wowie makes it look easy, and that's it.
Number 1 on this map is Hard Rock only, by the way. Bonk. So it is still... I think this one's pretty balanced despite the metadata for the map. And that was really the goal with this. We've got another more gimmicky 1 slot here to go along with the Hard Rock 1 and Hidden 1 being relatively gimmicky 1 slots. But hopefully balanced out enough by the DT1 and Nomad 1 being those pure mechanics maps.
That's something that we really caught on to. I think after probably a month and a half of pooling with this format, we realized at one point we were just favoring these gimmicky skill sets in the 1 slots, and then we really made a conscious effort to start pooling some more mechanically intensive maps in the 1 slots as well.
Yeah. And this map is one of those gimmicky maps that stuck around in the 1 slot in the round of 16 here. Good luck to everyone playing that Daramok map in the free mod pool. And now we're going to get not quite a gimmicky map, but another alt alt aim tech hybrid sort of pick with Just Dance by Pegboard Nerds in the Freemod 2 slot. This one's CS3 AR 9.3 155 BPM alt aim hybrid. There are some 1-4 triangle jumps in this map that are effectively 310 BPM. You just have to stream them at 155 and hope for the best.
You also have full screen linear triples, similar to the ones in Exodus Earth's Atmosphere, actually, in this map.
Yep.
Oh wow, look, it's me on the leaderboard.
Hey, Miles.
Hey. Yeah, this map, I think, is probably the most accessible 2-slot in the pool, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
At CS3, you're going to be comfortable putting any mod on this. There's no sorts of like difficult overlaps whatsoever on Hidden as well. Actually, I might be lying. There might be some perfect stacks, but they're only mapped as triples, so you'll be able to catch on to them just with a single playthrough, I think.
Yeah, one other thing with this map is because it's in the 2 slot in Freemod, you're going to be forced 1 Hidden and 1 Hard Rock. So if it's not as balanced on the mods, we might still pool maps in these Freemod 2 slots that work for the pool, but aren't quite as balanced between Hidden and Hard Rock. I don't think that's the case for this map. I think this is pretty balanced between Hidden and Hard Rock, personally. With it being AR 9.3, the density on some of these patterns in particular is going to be really high. But of course, the added aim strain on Hard Rock is still going to be noticeable, even though it's CS3. You're going from CS3 to CS4. So still a noticeable enough change in the aim strain on this map with Hard Rock. But just keep that in mind for future rounds, that if there are maps that work really well for the pool in Freemod 2 slots, but they're not quite as balanced as we might want between Hidden and Hard Rock, we might still pool them anyway.
Yeah, that's something that's extremely unique to only the Freemod 2 slot, where no matter what, a Freemod 2, you will always have 1 Hidden, 1 Hard Rock, so you have to take that into account when map pooling. But yeah, this map, I like to categorize it by their distinct sections. You have the first key eye drop, which is mostly those triangle jumps, and then this one with its slider jumps. So you have to kind of be able to combo all of these sections, I think, if you want to be confident on this map, being one of the easier maps in the pool, in my opinion. You have to be able to, I think, get through at least the first 2 of these drops, because the third one, I think you're kind of allowed to break with those full screen triples, but depends who you ask.
Yeah, it's still pretty tricky regardless of the section, and you're going to get more of those full screen triples later on in the map serves as well. So it's not like you can just hit the first section and get a pass for the rest of the map. You have to be pretty solid at all of the sections in this map that have that higher difficulty strain, especially the last drop near the end of the map. Last quarter or so, I think, is that final drop.
Oh yeah, just to clarify, on 2v2 for free mod, you need a Hidden and a Hard Rock no matter what. So you're going to have one of each mod on each team.
Yeah, both teams will have 1 Hidden, 1 Hard Rock exactly. Hidden Hard Rock is allowed for the Hard Rock player, but you will need 1 player taking Hidden and 1 player taking Hard Rock. So have fun fielding those players for this map and for every free mod too throughout the tournament, because you'll need exactly 1 of each. 1 mod for both of your players.
And here we are about to get into that full screen triple section I was talking about. I think it's going to be really intense seeing some matches get determined by this section, because I think compared to the first 2 drops, this one is definitely the hardest. And here we go. Look at those. Horizontal and vertical. You have to be good at both of those types of movements.
And these ones are, I think, the most difficult in the map. These sentimental skyscraper triple jumps, like, those are extremely hard. If you have a couple of really good teams, maybe some middle seed team matches could be decided entirely by those patterns at the end of the map. So good luck to the players on those. Those, I think, are the hardest patterns in the map, saved for the very end. Always hype when you have a close matchup between 2 teams on a map like that.
That's something we actually took into account for, especially a lot during OWC pooling. Like, a lot of people don't like diff spikes in maps, but when it happens at the end, it creates a lot of hype in the matches when they come down to that last pattern at the end. And we kind of have that on this map, so very good pick, I think.
Yeah.
Now we're about to get into another custom, right?
We are. It'll be our last custom of the round of 16 pool, this time by Mega MK. Thank you very much for the map. It is not going to be that. That is actually the free mod 4. Burn MF by Five Finger Death Punch. We get some American metal in the pool this time around. And this was originally slated to be an aim pick, but it didn't end up that way. It ended up being more of kind of what we got in Hidden 4 as well. A bit more of a consistency focused map, a lot of stream aim and flow aim, a lot of variable spacing streams, a lot of awkward aim, a lot of finger control. And this map really is kind of another overall consistency test for a lot of players, it feels like.
And note the background's fiery flame skull.png.
Yeah, I pulled the background earlier for because Mega MK unfortunately will not be able to upload this immediately after Showcase. This one will be updated in around 12 hours from now or so, should be uploaded. But we wanted to get the background for the spreadsheet in the website so that it could be displayed even without being uploaded to the site. And I pulled the background image from the map folder, and the title of the image is just flaming skull.png with 3 L's at the end of skull. I don't know why, but that just sent me. And yeah, as I said, this is kind of a full-on consistency test, kind of a mini tiebreaker. You've got aim strain, you've got stream strain, you've got these slider parts, you've got finger control in this map. It's a little bit of everything, and I think it's pretty well balanced for free mod. CS 3.7, AR 9.3, and OD 9, so still high enough OD to be a challenge to act on Hidden and no mod, and low enough approach rate to still be relatively combo dense, but these patterns on Hard Rock are not forgiving, so that circle size a little bit lower than you might expect for a map of this style.
Mega MK, I think, making one of his early appearances in tourney custom mapping with this, and I think this type of map really suits him well, especially if you know him as a player. He, I think, is less active than he used to be, but in 2021 and 2022 was a really strong up-and-coming mechanics player in the USA. I think he was high 3-digit actually. And this type of map is the exact type of thing that he was so good at. So him coming into custom mapping, making something like this, it just feels right.
It really does. Shout out to Juicy as well for the replay on this map. My main man, Alabama carry in the United States Cup. Thanks to Juicy for the replay on this one. Came in pretty late to do the replay for this, actually. I think it was earlier this week or late last week we got Juicy into the server to do some playtesting. And you can tell this map definitely still some reading strain on the Hidden. Quite a lot of flow and aim strain on the Hard Rock, but low enough BPM. This is 180 BPM only, so you shouldn't feel a lot of stamina strain. It really is all about the aim mechanics and finger control mechanics on this map if you are taking Hard Rock, and of course a little bit of that paired with the reading on No Mod Hidden. As for 3v3 free mod rules, by the way, of course, since it is different team size, 3v3 and 4v4 free mod rules are identical. Your team needs 1 Hidden and 1 Hard Rock. The rest of your team can go no mod. They can overmod and take extra mods themselves, but you need at least 1 Hidden and 1 Hard Rock on your team. Whether that Hard Rock player has Hidden Hard Rock doesn't matter, but you need 1 player with Hidden only and 1 player with Hard Rock or Hidden Hard Rock on it.
Probably going to expect to see some people forget some of these rules in the first week, so going to make sure that our refs are on high alert to make sure that these mod rules are enforced. Oh, sad choke at the end for Juicy, but nonetheless a very good 900k score on this free mod 3 from him with Hidden. And now onto the final map of the main map pool, one that you might have noticed earlier with our little hiccup there on the map pool progression. We've got Beautiful Loli Thing by Gorshit.
Yep.
By Kirio9. A map that I think veteran tourney players should be very familiar with.
Yeah, this is a map that I personally have pooled in quite a lot of places. It's been a while since the last time I pooled this anywhere. I think it's been a year or 2 at this point since I last put it in a map pool. So it felt right to bring it back. And again, just getting into it, the 4 slots that we've had so far have been low AR reading, AR 9 hidden consistency, precision hard rock aim, DT alt, and now we've got a stream map for the 4 slot. So goal accomplished, keeping the 4 slot varied among all the different mod pools this weekend. I think a little bit of a mechanics bias to the 4 slots in the first week of the tournament with the alt DT map. More a mechanics map than a gimmick map, honestly. The reading on that is really not all that difficult. It's all about the flow aim. And that's really the case here as well if you're taking the hard rock. It's all about that 200 BPM stamina, the aim and stream mechanics required to play this on hard rock. And if you're taking hidden or no mod, well, you're playing it with AR9, so that density is going to be much higher, and some of the overlapping jump patterns in this map going to present a unique challenge.
These Gorshit songs, breakcore as a genre in general, actually, they just make such good, like, mechanics maps, honestly. Like, it's almost unique, like, the 200-ish BPM streams in this, it's like, do this type of thing and, like, burn this moment as well. And right here with these amen breaks, create some nice stream patterns.
Oh, and I think we lost our Osu volume there for a second. We'll get that back. There we go. But yeah, really solid stamina map for everyone out there who's looking forward to playing some streams in this tournament. A little bit lower star rating than the Hard Rock 2 as well, so more accessible for those of you who are in for the 4 slots, but not some of the 2 slots on these stream maps.
I've always loved the free mod viability for these types of maps because, you know, the aim strain becomes so much harder on hard rock, but then you add hidden and it becomes really dense, and you have a lot of these like streams that are very high potential for note lock. So we're gonna see a lot of, I think, variability between the mods. Like definitely a lot of potential for comfort modding on this. You might see some higher tier teams over mod on hard rock on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really similar to something like Capriccio of My Mind that we saw in Oda. And again, maps like that were kind of locked out of map pooling for a while because they are AR9, because they are more suited to a free mod pool. And when we were kind of deep in the slot pooling sauce, we didn't get to see a lot of that due to there being a sort of mandatory stream map and no mod. So, hey, why are you pulling no mod streams and free mod streams when you also have a no mod speed map and 2 DT speed maps, right? Like, you just couldn't overload the pool on tapping like that. And the format here lends itself to more picks like this that can bring back some more classic tournament maps that we might not have seen for a while.
Mm-hmm. And that is going to do it for the normal map pool now. Only the tiebreaker remaining. And it's another one that I think most veteran tourney players should be very familiar with. Our tiebreaker is going to be Tapioca by Usao. Map, I think, originated in Corsace Open, correct me if I'm wrong, 2020, like semis?
Believe so. It was Corsace Open 2020 semifinals, yep.
Oh, wow, got that right. Yep, map is, I believe, a collab, but if not, it's only by Relazy.
Yeah, it is a collab between Relazy and Rigaud, actually. Those two really, really good mappers, especially at the end of the 2010s. Both of them were really popping off with lots of awesome maps, and this is one of them. A lot of players have had issues with custom maps and the slot pooling meta and the way that those two things interacted with each other, but this is the exception to the rule. Tapioca was basically an instant classic when it came out in Corsace 2020. It's seen more than its fair share of usage through the years, but I think it's been a while since I've seen it in an open rank tournament anywhere, so putting it here felt right for a first stage tiebreaker.
It's insane how much better players have gotten. This has been demoted all the way to open rank round of 16 from its status as open rank semifinals all the way back in 2020. Crazy, 2020 was 4 years ago now.
Yeah, it's almost 4 years ago this map was released, and now about 3.5 years later, it's down 2 rounds in open rank tournaments. So it's an interesting development for sure, but this is, you know, only 7.3 stars. There's definitely other maps in this pool that are harder than Tapioca. Things like Dynamite in Hidden 2 come to mind. Things like even Shonen Ripples in Nomad 1 come to mind. Things like the DT1 Crush definitely come to mind. That map is far and away above a map like Tapioca in terms of the raw difficulty required in playing it. This map to characterize this, it is, well, Miles, I think you might have a term for this map that might be pretty applicable for this one.
Mech tech.
It's mech tech. It's tech
Yes,
mechanics
sir.
hybrid. It is aim tech. It is some streams as well. It is some slider following. It is a little bit of gimmick with the map and the idea behind these repeat sliders. And if you have played this before, you know that it tests a lot of different skills all at once. It's not really segmented out like a lot of custom song tiebreakers tend to be as well. It's all mixed in together, so you can't just be good at one of those things and expect to get a good combo together. You have to be good at everything all at once because it tests everything all at once without breaking into those sections.
And now I'd like to bring up a concept that is kind of abstract to actually talk about like objectively, but I like to say that a map like this has kind of an aura to it, to where even though in terms of raw difficulty, it's probably not as hard as, say, the Nomad 1 or the Hidden 2, like you mentioned. But this map, it kind of has that aura to it. Like, if you get the tiebreaker in a match in round of 16 in a tournament like this, you're probably going to be pretty nervous, and this song just drive your blood pressure straight up. Your heart rate's going to be up. You're going to be nervous. We're probably not going to see too many standout performances on this, but if you do, you're going to be the hero for your team.
Call that the Furiosa Melodia effect, right? Like,
Yeah.
some songs, they really do have that final ball. And this is definitely one of those songs that has it. Furiosa Melodia is the one that has that aura in this community. If you get to tiebreaker and it's Furiosa, you're laying some bricks. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You're laying some bricks.
Yeah, Dio, I've
on
been
that tiebreaker.
TV in one of your tournaments. I think back in Perennial, my team went to that tiebreaker, but a little bit of an incident happened there. So not going to bring that up. Yeah, very nice hidden replay by Chiv as well. Back when this guy wasn't just the map pooler of every tournament.
Yeah. And while we're here, and while we're on a map that everyone knows about, and while we're yet to be completely finished with the showcase, I want to real quick shout out our partner, Wacom. An OS tournament has finally actually partnered with Wacom, which is awesome. I think Wacom is a brand that is universally recognized in OS for high-quality tablets, and the fact that they have decided to partner with SSOT in what is the first instance of Wacom partnering with any entity in OS is really awesome. So shout-outs to Wacom. Thank you so much for partnering with this tournament. And if you haven't checked out Wacom before, you are missing out, because Wacom tablets are some of the only tablets around that have no built-in smoothing filters on some of the tablets, which means you get your exact input when using their tablets for the game, or some of their tablets for the game. Some have smoothing, more designed for art, and some have no smoothing built in whatsoever, which is what has made them so ubiquitous for OS players throughout the years.
And also would like to let y'all know, if you use code SSOT40, SSOT40, as a code in their store, you get 40% off the Intuos series of their tablets. So definitely be sure to check out Wacom. I've used their tablets for my 8 years as an OSU player. I can vouch for them. They make extremely high quality tablets that I would recommend to any OSU player.
And that is pretty much it for the round of 16 Mappool showcase. It's been a relatively long showcase. We had some delays in starting, and we've been here for quite some time talking about the Mappool and the qualifier results and everything to do with wrapping up that qualifiers weekend. So thank you so much to everyone for sticking with us. If you're still here at the end of the stream, we'll go ahead and talk about the brackets one more time here, just to go over some of these matches. Again, we did actually get a low AR reading map as the hidden one, so I think the Yokespie team going to have a good time with that, assuming it's not banned. But a lot of these matchups, I think, are going to be really fun to watch, especially on the right-hand side of the screen. You're going to see a lot of close matchups on that side, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kinds of scores the best teams in this tournament can put up as well on the left-hand side of the bracket.
And also, like, remind everybody that the schedule will be coming out after the stream ends. So if you want to put any of these matches on your schedule, be sure to check out our website to find the schedule and note down some of the matches you want to watch. I'm definitely going to be looking at some of the matches on the right side of the bracket, some of those closer matches and seeding I tend to like to watch. Might be trying to commentate some of those as well, but that's something for after the stream as well.
Yeah. As well, the map pool will be on both the spreadsheet and website shortly. So again, check out SSOT.gg for the schedule and map pool after this. As well, check out the main sheet for all of that information. And if you aren't in the Discord already, be sure to join that so that you can get updated on when we go live with the matches for round of 16. All of the matches between the teams that we've talked about and on the maps that we've just shown you will be next weekend, the weekend of February 24th and 25th. So make sure to tune in next weekend for these matches. And that is actually it. That's all we have for you. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. Thank you to Fuvel for doing the streaming for all of this and putting the results together. I know with all the technical difficulties, I think people were, of course, frustrated by the delays, but tournaments like this that are really high production value and high effort, you tend to have those delays. I've had them myself more than a few times, and being able to put it together and have it go as well as it did here is always really nice. So shout outs to everyone who has kept watching through the end. Shout outs once again to Wacom for partnering with SSOT, and make sure to check out their tablets, and you can actually get 40% off the Inspo series on their website with SSOT40 as the code.
Great deal.
Thank you so much to everyone for watching. Thank you to Miles for casting with me for this multi-hour showcase, and we will see you all next weekend, the 24th and 25th, for the round of 16 matchups between the teams in SSOT.